Ready, Mayor? Okay, good evening, everyone. Mr. Pizzo, do you want to announce that we had a executive session?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. The council met in executive session immediately prior to this evening's meeting for approximately 75 minutes. Present for that executive session were the mayor, the 5 members of council, the township engineer, and me. Discussed were several matters of pending litigation and one matter of potential litigation. No official action was taken during the executive session. No official action will be required this evening as part of that executive session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now we're going to open up the meeting with a moment of silent prayer and the pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first on the agenda is acknowledgement of a heroic action by one of our residents, Christine King. And Christine King is here with her family and friends in the front row. It was very heartwarming to, when I heard this story on Action News. What happened was there was a domestic situation where a 35-year-old man and his girlfriend or wife or whatever, woman who had a baby with him, got in an argument, and he took a baby out of a car and he was going to throw it off of a bridge on 95. And he had a gun. So a complete stranger pulled over and stopped him. A complete stranger, uninvolved, didn't know the people, pulled over and grabbed the baby. Guy has a gun in his pocket. The girlfriend ends up helping and gets the gun off the guy, and the police come and the baby's saved by a complete stranger. And the complete stranger is Christine King, who, after I'm hearing this story, they say Bensalem resident. I go, oh great, she's a Bensalem resident. That made it even prouder I was proud of her from wherever she came from, but to hear she was from Bensalem gave me an extra pride. So the 35-year-old man from Bristol, he faces 11 charges: kidnapping, aggravated assault, and reckless endangerment. And driving her and the child to I-95 against their will and going out and threatening to throw a child off the overpass. Officials say he assaulted a state trooper too. Christine King of Bensalem couldn't just pass when she saw Murphy and pulled over without much thought. She got out of her car, put her hands around the child, tried to pull it from Murphy. He told her to go away, he would shoot her. The baby's mother was able to grab the gun out of Murphy's pocket. They both tried to talk to him, and they were able to, get him settled down enough where the police came and took over the matter. So, Christine King, I have the mayor, and he's going to present you with a accommodation for your actions.
Praise the Lord.
Amen.
Amen is right. Amen. Well, the headline reads, Bensalem woman helps save Bristol man's baby in Philadelphia. And all this time it's got Bristol and Philadelphia, but it's Bensalem that came through. So Christine. And it says, Christine King, your courageous actions during an incident along I-95 involving an incident were very admirable. Saving someone else's life is a heroic act and deserves a lot of praise and respect. We often take for granted the very things that most deserve our gratitude. God bless you. Thank you from myself and council here in Bensalem, and to all your family and everybody here tonight. We congratulate you. Thank you for being there to do this. God bless you, my dear. God bless you. You want to say a couple words?
Say a word or two.
Come on, please.
Good evening, everyone. I'm kind of nervous, but I'll take a little time to speak. To God be all the praise, and to God be the glory. I did not act on my own as I stand here today. I was delayed at home on my way to work. And when I got on 95, as usual, the traffic is heavy, but this one was more than normal. And I was on the second to the fast lane. And they're talking to me, take the Cutman exit so you can go around the back way. I got to the far right lane. From a distance, I saw a guy standing, and I saw when he pushed the girl. And then I said to myself, driving, playing my gospel music, and I said, oh, maybe it's an accident. That's why the traffic. But when I saw he push her, I said, maybe they just plain love. And the second thought came to me, while this traffic moving very slow, I'm not there yet. And I said, maybe he hit her car and he trying to get away, and she trying to hold him down. Well, she's a lady that's shorter than me. And so when he pushed her, that was the second push he gave her. When he did the third push, then I saw the baby in his right arm, but he had put it from the right arm and hanging the baby over. And I said, oh my God, there's a baby. Traffic was not moving fast enough, so I got a little bit closer and I just got out of the car, left the car door open, left the car running, and ran out. I thought if nothing came to my mind but help talk to him so he can let the baby go, I thought that would work. A mother of 5 and a mother with a lot of nieces and nephews, I couldn't pass. But I just know in my heart, I don't think I did it on my own. I thank God. He put me in a position. And where would I be today if that baby were going to get killed? That was going to live in my brain for the rest of my life. That I thought like, oh, I should have done something, but maybe next time, Lord, give me another try. But no, it was then, he wanted it done then, right there, and I got it done. I know there's a safety, there's a risk. What I did, when I left that evening from work, I just cried because I said I should have been there. I didn't know he had a gun, but he told me, look in his eyes, he said, I will shoot you. And he was screaming. He was angry. He said, I will shoot you. Get off my baby. And I did 2 steps back. And I said, okay, please give me the baby. Don't do this. He was not listening, so I got back. And while we were stroking over the baby, this girl was crying, fighting for her baby. She's a hero. Because nobody would try to save their baby and try to fight for a gun. Knowing that he had a gun, I didn't see the gun until she got the gun away from him. So with a big guy, both of us, he was fighting both of us with one hand and the baby in the other. So with all of that, God was there. No one else could do it better but God. And when she took the gun, when the police came, when we finally got the police, it didn't take long for the police to come. The police came in the opposite directions, most of them. And when the police finally got there, she took the gun out of her back and gave it to the police because she had no pocket to put it in. And then I said to her, what? You got the gun to protect yourself? And she said, no, it was his gun. When you and he was struggling over the baby, he was rubbing on it. Was at a guardrail. He was leaning against the embankment. And that's how, by him moving left to right, by me fighting to take the baby, and she went in the back so easily and got the gun. And that's how she explained it to me, how she got the gun when me and him was struggling over the baby. And when the police came, she gave the police the gun. And the police took out the bullet right before us, out of the gun. And then he went back to his fellow officers and told them that he had a gun. And that's when they struggled to get even the handguns on his hand. And I stayed with our grand. People were asking me, well, I related to her. I don't know her. It was my first time meeting her. I stayed there the whole time until her. I said, you want to call somebody? She said, yeah, I did. But with the traffic being so heavy, her mother took about 2 hours or more to get to us. And I said, I'm going to take you home. I don't care if I leave for work, I'm going to take you home. And I did that. And I don't have no regret. I can do it all over again because a child was involved. I know the risk. If it was just the both of them, yeah, I would go into jail, maybe pull on the side, call the police, and don't get involved. But with a child, like I said before, a mother of 5, I could not pass and let my guard down. So I just thank God that he put me in the position, and I just thank God that I was there at the right time to do it. All my praise and glory belongs to God, and I will forever praise his name for saving my life.
Is this all family? All family? Where do you live? Here? Okay, good. Good to have you guys. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Mrs. King, thank you so much. There are no words, and I totally believe that God sent you there that day. I firmly believe in my faith and that God has a plan for every moment of every day. So thank you for being there for that baby.
Okay, next on the agenda is public comment on agenda items. We will have an opportunity when the agenda items come up to address each agenda item. And number 3 on the agenda is approval of council minutes for August 8th, 2022. I checked them over, it was fine. Is there anybody that has any changes to the August 8th minutes?
Motion to approve council minutes for meeting date August 8th, 2022.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any against? Okay, so we're good with that. Okay. Next on the agenda is number 4 on the agenda. Second, let me get it here.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion that we move number 12 up to number 3A and allow Johnson Properties to give their thing to us, to show us what they're doing. They've been waiting and going back and forth trying to work out the road issue. I think that we should give them the opportunity to show what they're doing before we vote on changing the zoning and so forth.
Well, we were going to let them come and make a presentation in front of...
I put a motion on the floor, Mr. President.
Okay, is there a second to the motion to move the agenda?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Mr. Knowles, before you call the motion, I spoke to counsel for Johnson immediately before the meeting, and I believe, but I don't want to speak for him, but I believe that their intention to make a presentation will be dictated to some extent by council's actions on items 7 through 11 involving the condemnations, 7 through 10 rather, the condemnations for Renaissance Boulevard. But Mr. McGinnis is here. Perhaps you want to hear from him on whether they want to be moved forward.
Okay. Mr. McGinnis?
Good evening, Mike McGinnis from Begley Carlin. Mr. Pizzo is correct in that we spoke a few moments ago, and our understanding, based upon the order of the agenda, is that condemnation proceedings are going to be discussed, which would affect our property, and the outcome of the vote on that condemnation would dictate whether we would like to proceed with the actual development presentation. So we would like the opportunity to address council and discuss our project and the pending condemnation, but we believe we can do that in conjunction with the condemnation presentation. and vote.
Okay, so when the agenda item 7 comes up, we'll call you up to.
As long as, yes, so long as we
speak
would
on that
have the
agenda
opportunity
item.
at that point, that would be satisfactory.
Okay, you okay with that, Joe? Okay,
Thank you.
all right, okay. All right, so then keeping the agenda number 4 is consideration of public hearing of ordinance amending the Township zoning ordinance, Part 2, 232 of the Township Code, Residential District, Division 12, R55, Riverfront Revitalization District, zoning change. Okay, so Mr. Pizzo, do you have this?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Knowles. The ordinance before you was authorized for advertisement at the council meeting of July 11, 2022. The ordinance proposes a text amendment to the township zoning ordinance that would revise and in most cases omit a variety of currently permitted uses in the R55 Riverfront Revitalization District. The text amendment has been advertised in the Bucks County Courier-Times. It has been presented to the County Planning Commission and the Township Planning Commission, both of whom gave favorable recommendations to the proposed ordinance. If adopted, the use regulations in the R55 Riverfront Revitalization District would be amended to continue to allow R11 and R33 residential uses, would continue to allow recreational facilities as set forth in that ordinance, would continue to allow for special citizen housing in that district, would continue to allow for business professional uses in the district, would continue to allow for planned commercial district uses in the district, would continue to allow for college and university uses in the district, would continue to allow for precision manufacturing uses in the district, would continue to allow for laundry, dry cleaning, and similar types of facilities in the district, and would continue to allow for accessory uses pertinent to those uses as part of the ordinance. The ordinance as proposed would eliminate a variety of light manufacturing uses as are currently defined in subsection 9 of the use regulations of the ordinance, would eliminate milk, soft drink, and other premixed non-alcoholic beverage manufacturing, bottling, or distribution, would eliminate wholesale business facilities, would eliminate warehousing and storage in enclosed buildings for retail, manufacturing, wholesale, or distribution businesses, would eliminate the manufacture of electrical appliances and supplies, would eliminate light metal processing such as finishing, plating, grinding, sharpening, polishing, cleaning, rust proofing, and heat treatment, would eliminate the bulk processing of wood and lumber, not including pulp and fiber reduction from the district, and would allow a variety of heavy industrial uses that currently are limited to facilities of 50,000 square feet, and those would include the packing of food, food processing, metal product treatment and processing such as lacquering and electroplating, the manufacturing of machine and hand tools and electrical equipment and motors, and the manufacture of rubber and synthetic rubber products. So those are the proposed amendments to the ordinance. The amendment comes, or the proposed amendment, it comes and is being recommended to council as part of the township's ongoing efforts in terms of the riverfront revitalization, as has been discussed publicly going back to when the R55 district was first created, the better part of 20 years ago, consistent with the Bucks County Riverfront study that was done at that time, consistent with the University of Penn study of the township waterfront that was done at that time, consistent with the township's involvement and condemnation of the old Atachem site, which was subsequently part of a state, county, and township cleanup, such that it led to the approval and now development of the waterside development on State Road. In furtherance of the township's approval of the landings, land development project at State and Street Road, in furtherance of the township's adoption of its 2018 regulating code and official map for the River Renaissance District that were adopted in December of 2015. All of those actions that have taken place over the better part of 20 years, this would be yet another step in the township's plans to see that R55 zone transition from what was strictly heavy industrial to the uses that I read as part of the ordinance earlier in this presentation. So with that, the ordinance has been properly advertised, it's been properly reviewed by the county and township planning commissions, and it is in a form acceptable for your consideration and discussion this evening.
Okay, does any of the council member have any questions in reference to the ordinance? Joe, we don't have any questions. We need to do anything else to call a vote? Or?
No, and again, this was presented to you at an earlier meeting as well to get your authorization to advertise it. The next step would be to open the floor for public comment.
Okay. Okay, is there anybody that would like to come up to speak for or against this ordinance consideration?
Good evening. My name is Andrew Stoll. I represent various property owners along State Road.
Okay, your name?
Andrew Stoll, S-T-O-L-L.
Okay.
And we represent various property owners along State Road in the R55 district. The first is JJGD Holdings LP, which is the owner of 2700 State Road. Bensalem 2 Enterprises LLC, which is the owner of 625 Imperial Court. 2510 State Road, 2546 State Road, and 2526 State Road, and 2500 State Road Holdings, which is the owner of 2500 State Road. Council members, let's call this ordinance what it is. It takes a zoning district which is entirely industrial and flips it on its head. It eliminates a lot of the vast value that is in any of those properties in the R55 district. So with that, we'd like to comment on it. With me here tonight is a member of the owners, Mr. John Grassi, as well as a land planner we had to address some of our concerns with this ordinance.
Good evening. My name's John Grassi. I appreciate the opportunity to speak before you today. As my attorney stated, I'm a partial owner and representative of 3 entities that own 8 parcels of industrial land on the west side of State Road, encompassing approximately 144 acres of industrial land. I've worked in Bensalem for over 30 years, and I've always tried to avoid the public forum. I do not like this at all. 17 years ago, I was thrust into the public forum. The reason being the passing of the R55 ordinance. The reason why it was passed, in my opinion, was an attempt for 2 reasons, actually. 1, to improve the waterfront, and 2, to stop a trash transfer facility that was attempting to be bought, that was attempted to be built right next door to my property. Now, admittedly, it's very difficult for anybody to get behind a trash transfer facility. But what happened is everybody in the area who had general industrial properties on a dime lost all their industrial uses. No plan for how to replace them, no plan for how to deal with the blight that would occur, because anybody can come up here and say, well, you can still do what you want, you're grandfathered in. Well, that is correct, as long as your building continues to do what is happening at that moment. The second, you either try to get another use in there, sell the building to another owner, unless they do exactly what you do, it's non-conforming. The existing non-conforming is the only thing you're allowed to do. There's no plan for how to deal with that. 17 years ago, we all got together. Many of the people in this room who honestly I haven't seen or spoken to since then. We worked with the township. We worked it out. We understood what the township wanted to do. We also understood that it would take a while, and we needed to work together, and that was 17 years ago. I'm standing here in front of you today, 17 years later, and I want to ask every member of the township council, do you know how many properties that are zoned R55 have flipped to residential as of this date? After 17 years. Mr. Polari?
One?
That is incorrect. None. The only one that is done residential is Waterside. It has its own separate zoning, MDX, high density. And it's taken 17 years, and it's still not done. No, I'm not saying that the mayor's dream will never happen. I disagreed with you, Mr. Mayor, when you presented your vision. I disagree in part with you today. In 2008, I bought the property that was planned to be the trash transfer facility. You asked me to come up and speak, and you called me a hero, in which I told everybody in the room I was not a hero. Heroes are police officers. Heroes are fighters. Heroes are Christine King. All I did was buy a property, and I swore to you at that meeting that I would work with the township to redevelop the zone, properly, the way it should be, organically. This is a 640-acre area. That is 1 square mile. That is the size of Hoboken, New Jersey, for anybody who knows that, It's a monumental idea, a monumental plan, and it cannot happen just by taking away the uses of over 3 million square feet of industrial property that is nowhere near the waterfront. I don't own waterfront property. The closest my property gets to the waterfront is a quarter mile away. Broken Goblets Building, 2500 State Road. I'm a quarter mile. My office is almost 3/4 miles away. This is not about the industry that's down there. It's an effort, once again, to stop something that's not wanted. It's an effort to stop these warehouses that may or may not be a bad thing. If we get to talk about it, there's an offer on the table that if these warehouses go through, probably not the best thing in the world, not everything that somebody would want, but a road to separate the industrial. When I got on board with this, once again, I don't fully agree with the mayor, but I got on board, and when I looked at the area that I've spent the last 30 years of my life, and I looked at the waterfront, I said, you know what? That has an opportunity for the types of residential development you're looking at. It does. The State Road Corridor has the ability, to do commercial and retail. We're trying it already on my property with the Broken Goblet. I mean, they've spent, admittedly, four-ish years trying to get final approvals. Some of it was self-inflicted, I will admit that. But in the past year and a half, since we've righted the ship, we still can't get permits to finish that work. I'm trying to do a walkway for the people at Waterside to get from Waterside to the Broken Goblet. I was in front of this group over 4 months ago. I still can't get my permits. Now, we want these types of things to continue. We want to work with the township, to get these types of things done. But I'm an old school industrialist. So I'm going to differ a little bit from what the mayor wants down here. I believe that this country became great not by housing and not by Starbucks, but by building things. we need to work together, because I firmly believe that you can have residential on the water, you can have commercial and on the state road corridor, and you can have a separate corridor for the industry back by I-95. Right now, I'm R55. I'm going to build houses on my property, which backs up to the rail siding? What can I build there? Meanwhile, I have viable businesses employing hundreds. The people in this room with the over 3 million square feet of industrial building are employing thousands. When one person moves out, it's going to be blighted. And it's going to happen slowly over time and not on a scale that would allow us or any of the residential developers to be able to pick up the slack and do the types of things that I believe that the township is looking for. It's a monumental task. Right now, on this 277-page 2018 ordinance, I've read all 277 pages of it, and my property is supposed to be a town center. A town center. What's the plan to create a town center? Has anybody taken a look at, I don't know, what the impacts are to the road system? Has anybody looked at where the wetlands are? Has anybody looked at existing features? Or what that's going to do for traffic? How can I build a town center unless I can build apartments? And I don't think people want apartments right up against the rail siding. I could be wrong, but right now I can't build them. So there are parcels right now that can organically change. I own a piece of one, and I'm trying to organically change. And if the people from Boca and Goblet want to come up here and talk about it, I don't think they want the people that are in these businesses who are their customers to be chased away. There's an opportunity to work together. There's an opportunity to do this the right way by working with the property owners, by working with the township, by talking to one another and say, this is the type of development we would like. And take a look at the individual properties and see if they can work. Not this way. Not just take everything away from us. Not use all the good people in this room as pawns because you two property owners want to do something that you don't want. It's not right. And I don't want to see it happen. And we can do better. You can do better. And I hope you do tonight. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. For the record, my name is Brian Seidel. I'm a land planner. Sure. Last name is spelled S-E-I-D-E-L. First comment I would have to make, the opening indicated that the ordinance was appropriately advertised. While I certainly did find a notice of the public hearing for adoption of the ordinance, it's unclear to me. It talks about revisions to definitions, amending the code and the use regulations, but there's no specifics. In the last week, I was provided 3 different copies of this ordinance from Bensalem Township. I don't know what is current. I don't know what's up for approval this evening, but they were distinctly different versions. We did go back. We looked at the comprehensive plan. We looked at the planning commission meeting agenda. We reviewed the county planning reviews that came through. Again, I'm not sure what version of the ordinance the county planning commission has reviewed. We looked at the comprehensive plan for the township. The existing comprehensive plan for the township shows this area for the R55 as being almost entirely industrial zoning. The future land use map calls for the waterfront development area, the area from Street Road out to the riverfront as being a waterfront redevelopment area, but the remaining portion of the comprehensive plan, the remaining portion of the R55 district from I-95 down to State Road, I said Street Road previously, State Road, as being industrial and remaining industrial. Bucks County Comprehensive Plan shows the existing area as commercial and industrial. The future land use map of the County Comprehensive Plan identifies this as an employment area. The current land use map, looking at DVRPC records, indicates the area of the R55 district is commercial and industrial zoning and includes transportation uses of distribution centers. The proposal that's before you this evening is not encouraging a new development for residential, it's encouraging blight. It's going to create situations where there are incompatible uses. More importantly, what this is going to do is going to create existing non-conforming uses within this district. Bensalem Township does not have current or adequate regulations to allow for the conversion of existing non-conforming uses. Therefore, any other uses would need to be approved by variance and show hardship, which is going to be very difficult from a proving standpoint. So what you're going to get is a lot of developed properties with larger distribution centers, warehouses, commercial industrial buildings that are unable to be utilized. Another consideration in these industrial areas, from my experience, many of these areas have contamination issues and they cannot be utilized for residential uses. They may even have deed restrictions on them restricting the development for residential uses. These are all considerations that should be accounted for that are not addressed in the proposed ordinance amendment.
So with that, there's a lot to think about. And that's good, because I have two last things I want to address before it's turned over to council. Both are legal in nature. The first, Mr. Solicitor had mentioned that this was procedurally advertised, or this was advertised pursuant to the MPC. It was not. In fact, if you look at the Courier Times notice, it says a copy of the full text of the ordinance was available at the Bucks County Law Library. I'll represent to you, I went there twice over the last week and a half, and on neither occasion was a full copy of your ordinance there. This is not a text amendment as has been suggested. As I told you when I first stood up here, this flips an entirely industrial area. Again, an entirely built-out industrial area on its head and begs for residential development, despite what's already there. So what we can do is we can kick this. We can really consider this. Let logic and reason prevail on this before we completely flip the R55 district and all the existing industrial uses on its head. And I'd be remiss not to discuss the timing of this. Now, if you look at your agenda, conveniently, you'll see that on your agenda is this item, the ordinance of the R55 district changing the uses. You'll also see that there's condemnation resolutions being considered tonight, which affect coincidentally two different properties. My client's property at 2700 State Road and Johnson Development, the folks who are here tonight. Now, you're aware that in 2001, my client submitted a sketch plan for a build-out, an industrial warehouse at its site. Johnson Development's property is currently up for consideration of a development project. And all of a sudden, what do we have here tonight? We have an ordinance that makes those uses and completely wipes them away, and we also have thoughts of condemning portions of the property. This isn't just to bring in residential development. Let's call it what it is. This is to shut out uses of those properties. Not just the Johnson property, not just the 2700 State Road property, but all the properties in the R55 district. So council members, give this time. Do we really want the owners along State Road to know about this? Because if it was advertised like a text amendment as it was just in the Courier Times, and it was just a copy of the ordinance was here if somebody happened to stumble along the township building. But if this was really doing what it's actually doing and rezoning the property, a notice would be sent to every single one of the property owners in the R55 district. That would give them the opportunity to come here and explain to you why this is such a bad idea. But again, us as property owners, we're then left with the question, did the township really want us to find out about this? Or was it just good happenstance that we're here tonight to defend the rights of our property owners? So I ask that you take all that into consideration and vote not to approve this ordinance and not make these changes. Thank you.
Good evening. James Calamia with Farrow Point, Calamia. Faro Point, Faropoint. Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, members of council. Our organization, Faro Point, is the acquirer and operator of industrial real estate. We acquire and operate real estate across the country. I work out of an office in southeastern Pennsylvania that works on acquiring sites in southeastern Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Just this past June, our organization purchased 3041 Marwin Road. It's not 147 acres, it's about 6 acres of property. It's included in the R55 zoning designation. And I think our approach in looking at the site was simple. This was a property where the previous owner, was either unwilling or unable to improve this property. So our group has the vision of making significant capital investments in the site. We've taken a look at some of the previous issues that were at the site. We're looking to right-size those. We've developed a capital improvement plan that really looks to take what we believe has been a distressed asset and bring it to a condition that could potentially be an asset for the Bensalem Township community. We started working with local engineers and planners to take a look at the site and what types of improvements we could look to put into place. And I think we're echoing some of the sentiment we're hearing tonight in that we recently heard about this ordinance. I think this past Friday we learned that there potentially would be action on the ordinance this evening. And we're just concerned the implications of this ordinance and the uses and potential restrictions could really inhibit our ability to fulfill this vision of improving what we believe is a site that may have been an eyesore to folks for some time. So just want to extend that we really look forward to working with different members of the township departments to see this vision come to fruition and advance this site, but really would prefer a conversation and let you understand some of the constraints that we're seeing with this ordinance and how it could affect the marketability of the property, how it could affect the ability to bring a productive use to the site. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Town Council. I'm a little bit nervous. I've never been in my 47 years of life at a Town Council meeting. But my name is Michael LaCouture, L-A-C-O-U-T-U-R-E. And I've heard my business referenced a couple times, so I thought I would just offer my perspective if you'll let me. I am the owner and founder of Broken Goblet Brewing, which is in Bensalem. There are 470 breweries in Pennsylvania. It's one of the most densely packed states in the entire United States for craft beer. Bensalem has one, and has only had one, and has no one else that are trying to open a brewery in there, and that's Broken Goblet. So I feel like I have a pretty unique perspective on this idea of putting a commercial entity, which I would consider us, right, into this particular area that we did. I see some gentlemen in the room who were part of the process of bringing us into Bensalem. Mr. Belfield, obviously John Grassi, who's now my landlord, and a few other folks who are, and Donnie, sorry, and some folks who are not here. But I just wanted to share a very quick perspective on this thing that's happening tonight. I didn't intend on coming here tonight. I found out about this meeting late last week when it was presented to me kind of flippantly that there was a map that was drawn up that looks like it's some sort of roadways that are going to go through the property and sort of create parcels. Is that accurate? Parcels for residential or commercial, is that right? That had already been approved? What's that? So you know, and I guess I looked at this map and then I looked at my building, and you folks can't see this, but I looked at this building and I see there's a road that's going through our parking lot, which, just to be clear to everybody, will bankrupt us. And I've already suffered for 5 years. I signed my lease September of 2017. I still don't have parking lots. I flood. I don't have the permits done yet, you know, and that's not my fault. We are a victim in this whole thing. Mr. Mayor, you know that. We've talked about it. What's that? No. I'm just pointing out that.
Let's make that clear. It's not the township
No,
that's
no, 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 no,
responsible for you
no.
not having permits. It's your landlords.
Understood. But what I'm saying is I don't have parking lots and I don't have everything. So what I'm trying to get across here is that I just want to put, you know, the commercial aspect of the you know, where we are in Bensalem. I think I want to do it. I love the fact that Waterside is there, and I feel like those places are selling more because we are where we are. And I would love to see more. But when I see this information, I guess what I wanted to share with the group is, it seems like this is a very big change that you're all, you know, saying you'd like to do here. And it doesn't feel like there's been enough conversation about it. I know that I've never heard about it. I didn't know about this until I saw it. And so I feel like we would like to be a part of the conversation. We'd like to try to help build the commercial revitalization of that area. If we didn't believe in Bensalem, we don't even have a fully actual lease. I don't have to sign it. We can just leave. But I don't want to do that because I believe in the town. And like I said, there's one brewery in Bensalem, and it's us. And if you go on our website, the very top of it, it says Bensalem Forever. And we mean that. This is our home base, and we don't want to go anywhere. But I think that this conversation could be a little bit more, and you know, forgive me. If I missed something and there was a meeting that I didn't know about, that's on me. But if there's conversation about trying to change all of the zoning in the area when I'm having trouble just, you know, putting on events or getting a tent put in the parking lot, I feel like maybe there needs to be a little bit more conversation. And then the last thing I'd like to say is that, you know, John and Donnie they really have tried to work with us to try to help us. And I'm just like one little bit of support for those guys. I don't know I don't know how much they have to do with these buildings you guys are talking about. Quite honestly, I don't care about these buildings. I wish you the best of luck, whoever's doing it, but I don't care whether they go in or not. But I do know that would probably bring hundreds and hundreds of people that would probably enjoy our beer. And so I have no problem with industrial because those folks like to come and enjoy our entertainment and our facility just as much as the folks at Waterside do. So I feel like we can have a conversation about this, and it doesn't necessarily need to be one blanket decision. And if you all want our help or any input from Broken Goblet on this, we would be happy to help because we've done a pretty good job so far. We're one of the more successful breweries in the area. So thank you for your time. I appreciate you all.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor, members of council, and ladies and gentlemen here this evening. My name is Richard Wells from the firm of Archer & Greiner. I'm here on behalf of the property owner of 2901 Samuel Drive, which is also in the R55 zoning district. I want to express my opposition and sentiment that we agree with the procedural and substantive challenges of the members who spoke before us, and I won't take up too much of your time. I just want to highlight a couple things that we think are specific to our property. As I'm sure you know, our property and a number of these other buildings in the R55 zoning district were purpose-built, and they're purpose-built to suit a number and a subset of end users whose businesses are specifically being now eliminated from this district. And in order to carry on those businesses, in order to cater to those businesses, the industries change, the market changes, those businesses, their demands change, and modifications are needed to those buildings. And while we understand that there are the ability to be grandfathered in, so it is said, the requirement to still get a variance to make those modifications and adapt to those market changes is an uphill battle, like was mentioned. Those variances won't always be granted, and those buildings will therefore become less and less desirable to new tenants and to existing tenants who may want properties that are more suitable to changes in the industry demand. That carries a significant risk of stagnation, a significant risk of blight, a significant risk of buildings becoming vacant, either in between tenancies or vacant for good. That is not necessarily a problem that affects our property at the moment, but as was mentioned, this is an amendment that unilaterally affects several hundred acres and several hundred business owners all at once. So we understand that this is a part of a long-standing attempt to change the characteristics of this zoning district. We're not asking you to necessarily vote no tonight. We're not asking you to completely change your longstanding view that you want to change the characteristics of this district. What we're asking you to do is to take a step back, to consider alternatives that attract the desired uses into this district rather than prohibiting existing ones. There are other tools in the toolbox that allow us to create redevelopment incentives, that allow overlay districts to attract users that you want in this district while allowing these other users to remain and not effectively prohibiting their businesses in the future. So again, even if you don't vote no on this ordinance tonight, we're asking you to at least table this ordinance, consider the other tools in your toolbox, and try and make a proactive attempt to attract new businesses into the district rather than prohibiting existing ones. Thank you very much.
My name is Manuel Avino. I'm the owner of 2919 Samuel Drive. And I'd just like to ask one question. Sure. First name is Manuel. Last name is A-V as in Victor, I-N-O. I just have one question, and I'd like to have an understanding on how the township is planning to achieve this goal. Because how are you going to get rid of the buildings that are there now and turn this into residential? Can somebody explain that to me? Because I really don't understand how the process of this would happen.
There seems to be a concept that's been shared throughout the business community in your area that this is being driven to turn the entire R55 district residential, and that's simply not the case. So to the extent that somebody's told you or anyone that a property along the train tracks, the township's vision is for that to suddenly be single-family housing, it's just not. It's never been the township's vision, and this ordinance isn't intended to make that the case. In answer to your question, the change in the zoning ordinance, as has been done previously in this district, will allow the uses that are there to continue, and will, we hope, spur a change in use, a gradual change in use, but a change in use to continue to move the R55 district from what was in 2005, 17 years ago, as Mr. Grassi said, an entirely industrial area, into an area that will be, as I read among the various uses that are permitted down there, one that will have residential, will have commercial to support the residential, places like the Broken Goblet, more Broken Goblets, and stores and restaurants and those kinds of facilities to support them, and supermarkets and retail shops and businesses of the kind that are talked about and proposed in the ordinance, less heavy manufacturing and more precision manufacturing, more research and development. So the expectation is, as one use goes away, as the gentleman was saying, another use will take its place. A developer might perhaps look at 2 or 3 properties together and see a vision for something that's permitted in the district and cobble those together. So it is a process. It is a process just like it is anywhere else in the township. The one use moves out and another permitted use moves in. That's what the intent is. That's what the intent all along has been. It's never been to drive the businesses out. If it were, in 2005, the rezoning ordinance would have looked quite different than it did. But it didn't, because the township took into consideration the comments of many people who were in this room 17 years ago. And the township continues to take very seriously those comments. But This has been a gradual process. The township said at the outset that it would be a gradual process, and this is the next step in that process. At least that's what the township believes, or at least that's what's being proposed.
Well, if I just have two other comments, then if it took Waterside 17 years to be 80% complete, how long is it going to take the rest of the properties to fulfill this vision? Me neither, probably. So when you're saying that the uses that are there now are grandfathered in, but yet you listed all the uses that are going to be allowed under the new ordinance, yes, the businesses that are there now are grandfathered, and as long as they're there, they'll be fine. But if a tenant leaves, the next tenant isn't going to be able to get a use and occupancy permit because the use is no longer allowed.
Again, it depends on what the next use is. A widget factory doesn't have to, a widget factory doesn't have to be replaced with another widget factory. The zoning ordinance right now allows for uses of a similar nature, and so uses of a similar nature can replace.
So in fact, we have to go for a variance for the next tenant that wants to rent in Bensalem.
Possibly.
Right?
In some cases, yes. In some cases, no.
I think
There are no absolutes. In some cases, yes. In some cases,
I think the likelihood
no.
is very possible that that's going to be the case. So that's what you're basically doing, is you're taking the properties away from us, because when we lose a tenant, we're not going to be able, unless you grant us a variance, we're not going to be able to rent that building again.
Can I say something at this
Please.
time? Because we can go on and on and on, and I see your side, every one of you. I'm a businessman. I understand it. Is Mark Kaplan, was he here? Where's Mark Kaplan? Mark Kaplan. Yes, Mark. Glad to have you. You're on the other side tonight, Mark. Mark represents me in Buckingham. So just want to let you know that. So I have an industrial area that I haven't been able to do for 20 years in Buckingham, 60 acres. Okay, so Mark's working on that for me. I understand more than anybody. For anybody to think that we were building any kind of homes on the railroad is just not common sense. It's just not common sense. That's just not going to happen under any condition. Maybe we can come to an agreement on how we're doing this. We're talking about a road that we've had on the plan since 2006.
2015.
Well, before that even.
Oh, yeah.
Before that even. We want to try to make this work for everybody. My dream's not going to come true. It's not just a dream. It's a vision. It's common sense. All over the world, riverfronts are changing, from industrial to shipping to all that. It has changed. And Bensalem shouldn't be left out there. You go up to Bristol and you go up Mill Street up there and you see that Main Street, you see all of that. It's beautiful. That's what people want. Marinas, a river. And as you go out of the territory, then it becomes more. It becomes mixed uses. We could get high-tech companies come in there. I tried to get Amazon with their offices way back when to come down there in that area. We'd try anything. We want to make it a mixed use. I don't mean warehouses, guys. I'm talking about their corporate headquarters. So if we could just get our heads and understand that the vision of the township, and to get there, we have to start to make some changes. And we have to give people an opportunity to know that they will be welcome here and they can work with us. I don't want to go on and on with this because I don't want you to think we're trying to hurt it. I don't want to hurt a business. I don't think there's a person up here that wants to hurt a business.
Well,
For God's sake.
You are hurting a lot of us.
Stop. No, guys, don't shout at me. I'm not shouting at you guys. Okay?
I have to
Acted
say,
very professional here tonight. You got a lot of good people speaking. I appreciate that. You want to argue with me, come in the office and scream at me, but don't do it out here. Anyway, I think there's a way to come about to make all this work, but we have to change. We have to do something. So I understand your plight, and honest to God, guys, I know it's not going to happen in my time.
I think
John
that,
Grassi's going to get ready to speak again. I work with John, I tried so much to work with him, so hard through the years. I took shots all the time with the goblet. I tried to help the goblet. We're not doing anything to the goblet, not one blessed thing. They've had all their problems back there. John, you know that. It's not our fault. It was your fault. So, I mean, we got to take everything in consideration and work together. That's all I'm going to say to you.
Okay, let's continue the discussion with council, okay? So just go ahead, make your points.
I'd just like to say one last thing, and that is,
I don't want people coming up to argue with the mayor. If that's what
I'm
you're
not-
going to do, then don't come up.
I'm just saying that your intent might not be to hurt any business, but you are going to hurt many other businesses in that area.
Okay,
And I
thank
thank you
you.
for your time.
Mr.
I'm not
Grassi,
coming up-
before you start, there may be others who want to at least a first chance to speak
I
before
kinda
you
got
get a
pushed up
second.
here. I'm not looking to argue. Mr. Mayor, I would like the opportunity, I think you threw out an olive branch, an opportunity to talk about this. I've worked with Johnson Development, okay, I'm on the, You're going to condemn land that I'm willing to give. It's on here, I'm willing to give it for a road. Give it. Because I don't want the people at Waterside not to have that road. I want the residential and the industrial separated if we can do it. We're going to give this road to the
Okay,
township,
if-
the land and everything else. This is an
John,
opportunity to talk.
John, if you want to meet with the mayor in the mayor's office, okay?
Well, it's
Okay.
God's here.
Mayor, can I offer?
Okay, hold on one second. If you want to come up and speak, come up and identify yourself and speak. One at a time. You're cutting in front of people too, but that's okay.
I'm Mark Kaplan. I want to make a suggestion. Joe, you said something that I do not think is correct. I went through the ordinance, and I went through your non-conforming use ordinance, and I was struck by the fact that you do not have in your ordinance what I see, I think, 100% of the time. And that's the similar use provision. All the ordinances that I've ever seen say that if you have a non-conforming use, let's say that you've got a clock manufacturer in 12,000 square feet, and that clock manufacturer leaves. You said it, Joe. That guy, unless it's a clock manufacturer, can't go back into that space. Every ordinance I've ever read says that you can change an existing non-conforming use for another use of the same category. And that's what this ordinance is missing. And if it had that provision, the people who are here, who are worried about losing today's tenant and not filling it with tomorrow's tenant, wouldn't be complaining as much. I will offer, so I think you've made a mistake in that ordinance. And what I think will happen if you adopt this ordinance is that you will continue to have the warehouse and the distribution, because if there's one warehouse use and you lose this tenant and another warehouse use, another operator comes in and has a warehouse or a distribution use, that's what's going to go back in, and that is grandfathered in your ordinance. So the distribution facilities that you have that are in short demand now are going to continue to be in short demand over a period of time. But when the clock manufacturer leaves, that's going to be an empty space, or some percentage of those clock manufacturer spaces are going to be empty spaces. And those, there's Pennsylvania law, Joe. There's a Supreme Court decision. It says in Pennsylvania, you may not cause the forced amortization of non-conforming uses. A municipality cannot force the elimination of non-conforming uses. And I suggest to you that adopting this ordinance without amending your non-conforming use ordinance is invalid. And you're going to get exactly the opposite of what you want. You're going to continue to get the distribution, and you're going to lose the small guys, and you're going to have inverse condemnation claims like crazy. So, Mayor, it could probably be fixed as long as these guys who don't have distribution facilities. But Jerry, how many uses do you have in your building? What'd you tell me, a dozen? Sure. And there are a lot of little users and different kinds of users, a lot of them that would not be permitted under the new ordinance. So Jerry loses that tenant. He's locked into what you've decided the market should be. You've decided that precision, whatever you read, Joe, but we all know you're not the market. The market is the market. And you're going to cause some of these people hell because they're not going to be able to re-rent those spaces. And worse yet, a new tenant comes along for Jerry's empty space, and what's he got to do to know that he's going to be able to fill it or use it? He's got to go to the zoning hearing board. He's got to go get a variance. Well, those tenants don't last very long. So I understand what you want to do. I don't have a problem with it, generically speaking, but you've got to protect, you must protect non-conforming uses. And you got to let these people who have buildings that have multiple tenants in them continue to have multiple tenants. So I don't want to get into, I'm not here to argue about whether you should do this or you shouldn't. But I know, Mayor, I know the way you feel. I'm just telling you that I see this as a mistake.
Okay, well, let Mr. President. Mr. President, is it in our zoning that you can do a similar
My understanding, and again, I haven't gone through the zoning ordinance chapter and verse prior to this evening. My understanding is that our zoning ordinance does provide for it, and certainly that's the way it has been enforced both by the current zoning officer and the one who immediately preceded him, which is why I made my comments earlier. That being said, if Mr. Kaplan is correct, and our zoning ordinance lacks the kind of a provision of which he speaks, it would apply not only to this rezoning, but essentially every rezoning the township's done at any point in time. And so, based on what Mr. Kaplan has said this evening, I'll get together with our township zoning officer this week and take a look at that, because again, as was said at the outset, the township's intention now, as it was in 2005, and no one raised this issue in 2005, and the zoning ordinance was essentially the same insofar as its general provisions go then as it is today. If it was an issue then it's an issue now, and if it wasn't an issue then, I question if it's an issue now. But regardless, if it is an issue, if it's a facet that our ordinance either doesn't contain or doesn't state clearly, it's something that we can fix independent of whether you approve this tonight or not.
Okay.
Because again, it would apply to all rezonings in the township as to what extent an existing use would be a non-conforming use post-rezoning, and what rights or privileges that non-conforming use enjoys.
Okay,
so that's something we'll take a look at, because again, I don't believe it's anyone's intention that the uses that are there now, or uses similar to them, shouldn't continue.
Okay, so we could correct that if it's not right now. Go ahead, next.
Christopher Stewart, S-T-E-W-A-R-D, from Wood and Flogie, on behalf of the owners at 2969 Samuel Drive and 2944 Samuel Drive. I have with me Howard Weiss, who's the owner of 2944 Samuel Drive. And just briefly, Samuel Drive is an industrial development of 8 buildings that is to the southeastern corner of I-95 and Street Road. And obviously, many people have come up and talked about diminished value, and my client can certainly do that. I don't want to, go over the same area, go over the same ground twice. But I would like to mention the fact that for my client, who of course has trucks come in for deliveries and things like that, for the trucks coming up I-95, it's a right off of 95 and a right back into that development. I argue to the council, that is good land use planning. Those trucks, for my client, are not driving all over the township. They're off and they're on, and they're staying out of everybody else's hair. The other part about this, which was briefly mentioned, but I want to talk about my client, he's been there for 30 years. He started with 4 employees. Now he's at 44. So these businesses are a significant value to the township. And certainly my clients would be more than happy, to speak with and work with the township to keep the businesses thriving, but also, work toward a goal of having more residential along the waterfront. Again, from my client's perspective, they are on the far end of the R55 zoning, right along I-95 and the tracks. Mr. Weiss?
My name is Howard Weiss. I'm the owner of 2944 Samuel Drive. I purchased that building over 30 years ago. We've operated our business in there for over 30 years. And as you know, business is changing all the time. What we started with processes 30 years ago, a lot of them have changed. And we've survived in business because we've been able to change. I just moved an operation out of Philadelphia facilities into this building in January, brought up almost 30 employees that were in Philadelphia, now in Bensalem. If I knew this was going on, I'm not sure what I would do. Didn't sound like it's a good idea. And I'll give you an example. We warehouse a product that is a food product in 55-gallon drums. It's actually raw imported honey. Comes into the Philadelphia piers, comes to our facility, and then it goes to processors. If one of the big clients we have says, can you do some pre-processing at that facility? That would be number 12. And we would consider doing that processing because that's how we stay in business. We find ways to reinvent ourselves. And over the course of, I've been doing this since 1982, running that business. My father started in 48. I took it over in 82. We have operations where we did in Philadelphia, Bensalem, and Miami. And we've survived because we're able to change. And you're taking away the ability for me to stay in business because you're taking 7 opportunities I have of taking that building and doing different things with it. I don't understand it. We are as far away from I think the waterfront's cool. I love the water. I live on the water up in Washington Crossing. We're pretty close to it. So I think waterfront development's great. We're not on the waterfront. The high-speed tracks go right, we're basically back up to the tracks and then 95. We're as far away as a housing development. Plus, in the 40s, that was a creosoting facility. I wouldn't want to have a house there, but, so I don't know the answer, but what you're doing is you're absolutely not hurting the potential growth of my business or the survival of my business. If things change and I then have to make another move and either lease that space or sell that building, you're significantly devaluing that building for what the intended use. We have 8 buildings in that group of buildings, if you're familiar with Samuel Drive. You come off 95, you go to Street Road, you make a right in Samuel. There's 8 buildings in there. We're essentially part of the I-95 industrial park. We're just on the south side. So, don't know what else to say, but, that's a fact of life. As you said, well, if somebody else comes in there, they'll replace it with some other process. You're taking 7 potential uses for that building away, which means there's 7 potential either opportunities for myself or somebody else that would want to be there. So I don't think it fits surely for Samuel Drive. Mr. Mayor, I think the waterfront's cool. I love water. I think development on the waterfront is awesome. Samuel Drive's not the waterfront. I'd like you to consider that. Thank you.
I'd like to say a few words related to our proposed Trip Bailey with Johnson Development. We won't get into too much detail related to our proposed project, but I mean, at the end of the day, our use, a warehouse distribution center, is related to one of the uses that's considering to be removed from the ordinance that you're considering right now. And so I think we'd like to come up here and offer another way, a way to, as you said, Mr. Mayor, work with the property owners to figure out a way to actually start some change in this area. And working closely with John Grassi, we feel like we've come up with that solution. So just quick exhibits. This is what we're proposing. It is a warehouse distribution center. I know that's one of the uses that, Mr. Mayor?
Did you say you and John Grassi came together?
Yes. We're working together to come up with a solution to provide land for the road that I know is a huge priority for the township. As you, Mr. Mayor, have made a huge point of us.
That kind of cut off because we were talking and it looked like that.
We've got a solution which we'll lay out right now, which we think is a much better solution for everyone here. A way to get the road, a way for private developers to contribute a significant amount of money to pay for the road and avoid the zoning changes you're proposing tonight and the condemnations which are on the agenda later. So we're proposing a warehouse, one of the uses that you're considering removing, but if we're allowed to move forward with this project, it enables us to not only invest in building a brand new building that we're proposing, but also help fund a future road to help alleviate some of the truck traffic issues that currently are on State Road. And we've had extensive meetings with the Waterside community. We understand that a priority for them is to see the new road come to fruition, and we believe we have a solution for that. This is what our building would look like. This is the proposed rendering for our facility. We're building facilities like this throughout the country. As you can see, it is a Class A, nice-looking facility. It is not an old rusting metal building. It is a new development, and this new development will help spur some change in this area, which I think we all can all agree is what we want to do. This is the rendering of what the view of the new facility is going to look like from State Road. Behind this view on the other side of State Road is the properties that are along the waterfront, including the Waterside development. New projects like the warehouse we're proposing should be the transition between the waterfront and the historical industrial uses that all of the property owners here are hoping remain along the rail corridor and the I-95 corridor. There's a way for all of these uses to work together to start improving the area. So we had mentioned that John and I have been working together very closely to come up with a solution for the township, and really laid out in front of you is what we're proposing.
I have to stop you again.
Yep.
Just be clear to me, because you were working with them, then you weren't working with them. The last I knew, that you guys weren't working together.
We were not working with him, and then he had a contract buyer. We were working with his contract buyer. His contract buyer fell out, and we've been working with him since then.
I want to make it clear, I didn't know about that.
And that's fair, and that's why we'd like
Well, it would have been nice that I wasn't told.
Well, we'd like to come,
Okay.
and we
I
did,
hear
John
you.
and I did reach out to
Continue.
council 2 weeks ago to try and present some of this, and council members decided that they'd rather hear from us tonight rather than hear from us before, so, look.
We had more than one meetings with you guys.
Yeah,
More
and
than-
look, we've
Two or three.
got a really turnkey solution here, that's the important thing.
Okay, well, it looks like it's a little quicker than maybe, go ahead.
And so, what we're putting on the table is, our proposal would be to donate land to accommodate the road, which the township has set as a top priority. we will also, in conjunction with our proposed development, we will escrow $5 million to go towards the future construction of that road. We believe that the road is a benefit for our project because it gives us more direct access onto Street Road and then to I-95. And also the other huge benefit is that some of the existing uses today that are heavily truck traffic can start using that road in lieu of using State Road. I mean, this is a solution where private developers and private property owners are coming together to offer land for free and funding for a road. This is how private development can work with the public to create a better solution, rather than rezoning the area, rather than using eminent domain and condemnations.
Which way's coming off of Street Road? Like, which one's coming off of Street Road?
So Street Road is right here.
Okay, so you can,
And the red is the proposed road map that is currently the township's official map of where they would like the roads to go. The green is the road that John and I are proposing. It accommodates our projects. It accommodates John's existing tenants. And again, we're willing to donate the land, and our company is willing to escrow $5 million towards the construction of the road, because if we reroute the road, it allows our development to go forward, and thus we have the ability to offer that funding. That's how we can work together. If the township decides to move forward on the rezoning, on the condemnations, my company's only option is to pursue the damages that those decisions would create on the property and the proposed development. And there's no opportunity to fund the road, and we need to seek full compensation for the condemnation and the damages that would be caused there. So I know that we're getting ahead on the agenda. This is not exactly what's being discussed right now, but all these items are interrelated. And so, as I said, we are willing to put a significant amount of money on the table, $5 million, to start the funding process to actually make this road a reality. We will donate land on our property so that the road can work around our proposed development. We will modify our development to accommodate the routing in green that you see on the exhibit today. And I'll let John come up here and confirm that he'll work with the township to donate the land on his property as well.
Just for the record, going way back in time, we have a plan that you also submitted with the road going through with having 2 warehouses. Just for the record, we have that plan.
So, I mean, I think that this is a much better solution than causing the rezoning to happen and condemning land right through the middle of very viable properties.
Okay.
And these developments can start to be the spur of change that everyone wants to see. If the rezoning happens, like everyone has said tonight, no change is going to happen. It's going to stifle new development in the area, which is unfortunate. So, I mean, I'd like John to come up and confirm.
okay, well, he came up twice already. We will believe you that he's confirmed. We understand, okay? So why don't you let the other people speak?
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mark Roth, ROTH from McMahon Associates. We are the traffic consultant for Johnson Development with this particular site. They asked us to just take a look at it. We didn't look into detail on the geometrics of it, and keep in mind, and for the audience and for council, the red that's shown is right-of-way. So it would be right-of-way information per the township map, where the green is the actual roadway itself. Our cursory look at the geometrics of it say that it would accommodate, and that can be, and we can work with the township to massage that, to tweak that in order to allow for the continued use of that roadway for trucks, for WP 67s. There's no reason why it cannot be designed within the area that's proposed to accommodate those types of movements. And as you can see, I think the goal of the roadway, shown in red, was connect from point A to point B. The green road does just that. It still connects from point A to point B. It interconnects the properties that are along this corridor that reside between State Road and the train and I-95. And I think it provides the opportunity for these businesses to access Street Road via a new fully redesigned intersection with a traffic signal. So the properties, or the gentleman that was speaking earlier about his manufacturing, there's no reason that in some way, shape, or form we can connect his business to that traffic signal. So I think it still achieves the goals that the township set out to achieve. So.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, appreciate your time tonight. My name is Jeff Coltrin, C-O-L-T-R-I-N. I'm an officer of Yellow Corporation, the parent company to YRC Freight.
Can you speak louder, sir?
Sorry about that. YRC Freight at 2627 State Road. We have been in that facility since 1969. We hope to stay there for an awfully long time. I will admit I have not been able to read this entire proposal because we only found out about it through an email from John last week. However, based on what I have heard tonight and based on what I anticipated this would be, it would be very limiting to us if we ever chose to develop that land. If we ever chose to either lease it or sell it, it would limit us in our ability to do so properly and make as much economic advance for us as possible. So I beg you to give us time to work together on this. We just have not had a chance and did not know about this to be able to do anything until tonight. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Councilman, councilpersons. I am Joseph Bennett. I'm the owner of 654 Street Road, where Fastenal is located, and another tenant property. It's 12,000 square feet. We do a lot of development up in the Lehigh Valley, and I understand I certainly want my lunch delivered tomorrow by Amazon drone, but I don't want a warehouse across the street from my house. But I do want to have that hamburger. Anyway, my point is that this is where we go frequently. We've developed over 500,000 square feet in the greater Lehigh Valley, and I have to go in front of zoning for variances. And the only two people who get rich are the township's attorney and my attorney. And we end up having to show hardships and everything else. I'd rather have the other uses have to show that hardship and this zoning to remain the same as it presently is. Because grandfathering is a nice term, but it really becomes difficult to prove that you're a similar usage as what's presently in the building. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Jim Scott. I'm with Avis & Young, here on behalf of a number of clients with buildings as well as prospective tenants. So just as I'm listening to everything of the uses that will be continued to be allowed, it kind of sticks out to me that in 17 years, we have upwards of 100 developable acres, and none of it's been used for those uses. So I'd say, first of all, I think the market is telling us something about the demand of what's being proposed here, that it might not be there. Secondly, a lot of ambiguity on continued uses. So presently, we allow for all these new uses that would be wonderful. We still allow for the industrial. So what I'm failing to understand is why the elimination of the industrial uses is needed. Meaning we permit these new uses 17 years. I fail to see the purpose of eliminating the industrial uses from the ordinance. To me, it seems that the that the missing link perhaps from the township of getting these new uses in is to somehow push out the industrial uses. So it's inconsistent messaging that it's not going to impact industrial uses, but at the same time, we need to eliminate them to make progress. So to me, I'm failing to understand that. So if anyone can help me with that.
In those same 17 uses, 17 years rather, no uses have gone on that undeveloped land, at least in terms of a shovel actually being put in dirt. A good number of those acres, particularly the Grupp, Forepaw, Columbus Country Club property, was approved for a mixed-use residential commercial development called the Landings. Before they ever got shoveled into dirt, the economy, the housing economy went in the tank back in the 2000s, and the project never got off the ground. As to the property that Mr. Bailey made a proposal on, we've never had a proposal for anything on there other than parking trucks. The property next to it, nothing other than parking trucks. So I don't know that the last 17 years are an indication of anything, but to the extent that it's time for the next step in the evolution, that's what the township believes is where we are at the moment.
So I think that evolution is what's going to create a detriment to these owners. So you're saying evolution. What I'm saying is,
but that's a different question.
There's nothing that prevents these new uses. There's nothing right now.
I don't disagree.
So why must the industrial uses be eliminated to accomplish that?
Again, there's been a certain, what's the word I'm looking for? Nothing's moved in any direction. And so, again, if the township has a vision, a place where it wants the district to go, and things haven't gotten there in their own evolution one way or another, the township's going to take the next step to try and get the development, the scheme of zoning, the scheme of development and redevelopment, take the next step that it believes will help to spur what it wants to see in that part of the township.
So if the word you're looking for was, if there was a stigma for some of those new uses being next to industrial.
That wouldn't have been the word I was looking for.
I'll use the word. If that was the perception, this is an admission that we're trying to push out those uses.
Again, I don't know that anyone's trying to push out anything, hence the township for 17 years allowing a variety of them to continue in just the same fashion, and the township's belief that they will be able to continue in the same fashion going forward. So in order to pave the way, if you will, for other uses that the township wants to see take hold in that part of the township, this, the township believes, is the appropriate next step.
All right. That I don't follow, but appreciate the time. Thank you.
My name's Steve Gansky, G-A-N-S-K-Y. I own the property at 777 American Drive, and I am on the water, 7 acres on the water. And we've had 2 different tenants in our building since my business, which operated there for 20 years, was sold and moved out, and then I became a rental property. And we had a fight like hell to get my last tenant in there. We spent $1 million renovating that building, and if this ordinance passes, my building is, you've basically taken my property. It's condemnation, because I'll never be able to do anything with it again. And that's a pretty big financial hit for me. Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else that would like to come forward? Yeah, go ahead.
My name is Gerald Ziff from the Ziff Real Estate Company, Ziff, Z-I-F-F. We own the building at 3161 State Road, my family and I, for the last 35 years. I've been involved in the building since the day it was built in 1973 as a real estate agent, along with Frank Roddy, the best in the business right here. And we have gotten 186,000 square feet. I explained this the last time 17 years ago. I may look different, but this is not a disguise. I'm now closer to 80 than I was 70 when I was here before. We have 186,000 square feet. We have it divided into 15 different units. They're all basically mom and pop type businesses. Once in a while, we'll get a big company that'll put in a small branch. Typically, our leases are 1, 2, and 3 years. 2 and 3 years. When times are bad, we did 1 year. We started out with M2 industrial zoning back in the day when Joe D'Egidio owned the building. That permitted pretty much anything in the business. It then got downgraded to M1, and then later you switched to general use, it got downgraded to G1. And then 17 years ago, you downgraded me again to R55. And the only thing that's kept us in business since then is the by right uses that I was very much involved in negotiating with to keep us in business. We have small warehouse operators, we have small manufacturers. We have the same type of clientele for all the 50 years that I've been involved in that building. It's not going to change. We're not going to put in barber shops and carousels and ice cream stores for children. It's not going to happen. So by taking out those by right uses, sorry to point at you, Mr. Mayor. By the way, I want to let you know who I'm representing. My son and his spouse, my bride of 52 years, my daughter, her husband, and my 6 grandchildren. So don't be surprised later. There's no other company, just us. So once you take away those by right uses, we're dead. We can't rent the space again. You're taking it out. Read what you did this time. That's why we put in the by right uses, so we could survive. Taking it out, and we're above the zone that you're concerned about. We're a quarter mile above Street Road. Yes, we're on the river, but we don't have river frontage. So that's all. I'll make it. That's it. That's all I have to say. Basically, I told you the same thing the last time. You're going to get what you want as the developers come to you, then you're going to change the zoning. Doing this thing in advance, nobody else has done it, and nobody can tell me a place in this, not only this area, this country, where somebody's zoned an entire area. It isn't blighted. It's not a slum, okay? There's dozens and dozens of buildings there, totaling millions of square feet that pay millions of dollars to this township for real estate taxes. Millions. We do our own trash removal. Half the time I got to do snow plowing work because the snow plow doesn't come to 4 or 5 o'clock at night. So I've never seen it done anywhere else. Blighted areas. This is not blighted. That's all you got to say. Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else coming forward? Okay, I'll close public comment. Okay, is there any questions from council?
Yes, I have comments, Mr. President, if I could.
Yeah, go ahead, then we'll take a break.
We have a certain designation in Bensalem, we're business friendly. What we're doing right now, to me, without talking and meeting with you guys like we did with R55, the vision that's for the riverfront is a fantastic vision. There's room for both, but we all have to work together to make it happen. And I think that that's something that's very important. And we're not doing that. We didn't give you the opportunity to give us your feedback until this meeting, and I don't think that that's the right thing to do. This is my personal opinion. I'm not talking for the other council people. But I think that we have to look at this correctly. If we're going to do this right, we have to market the riverfront, market and work together with everybody. Because if we did it as a team and everybody worked together, it's one of the things that's most important to the mayor, team. Everybody works together. I think it will work out to the benefit of everybody. Jobs for the people that live in the houses that are on State Road, restaurants that are there. You can pull up in your boat and you can dock at your boat and you can go eat. I mean, there's just so many things that can be done. But to try and push businesses out that can help bring business and jobs and things of that nature without talking it out and trying to work through this and make it happen makes no sense to me. I'd like to see us as a council put a subcommittee together to work on this and talk to the people in Echo Beach, the people in Cornwalls Heights across the street, the people that are in Waterside. They have a homeowners association. Everybody get together. There's no reason why this can't work to the benefit of everybody. But I think at this point, and I'm probably the lone wolf, but I think that what we're doing here, you guys should have been more involved in and had more of a say and at least had your opinions heard and not have to do it in the way we're doing this today. That's just my personal opinion, and I felt that I had to do it.
Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute, 10-minute recess, okay, to get ready. Okay, thank you.
Give the court reporter a break.
Okay, we're back. Okay, so we're still on number 4, long time on number 4 here. Consideration and public hearing of the ordinance changing the zoning for R55. Okay, and in consideration of some of the issues that came up this evening, some of the concern of the businesses and some of the feelings that they didn't have the opportunity to speak, even though we've been talking to people about this for a long time. But we're going to, I'm going to ask anyway that there be a motion that we move the consideration and public hearing of the ordinance, make sure that Mr. Pizer is going to check and confirm with our zoning, the similar property issue, similar use issue, and also the making sure it's properly advertised and people are aware. So I'd say that we get a motion that we move number 4 to a date certain of our second meeting of September 27th. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
September 27th.
I'll second the motion.
Okay.
So Mr. Knowles, before you call the motion.
Yeah, go ahead. September.
So as you suggested, during the course of comments on the proposed ordinance, we've heard a number of comments and some suggestions as well, both as to the
Mine's too quick.
the proposed changes in the use regulations themselves, as well as Mr. Kaplan's comments regarding the presence or perhaps non-presence of a similar use, I'll put that phrase in quotes, a similar use provision in our ordinance. I'd like the opportunity to review that with our zoning officer, and if we conclude, and candidly to speak with Mr. Kaplan further about it, if we conclude that is something that is perhaps lacking in our ordinance or not as clear as it otherwise might be, and when I say our ordinance, our zoning ordinance, then we may want to move forward with revisions to the zoning ordinance to make sure that the similar uses are protected in the way that we currently, all of us up here, believe they are. So that'll afford me some time to do that. The township believes that the ordinance was properly advertised and properly handled by the respective planning commissions. So that's not an issue, but both in terms of, as I said, Mr. Kaplan's point, together with having heard comments from the various business owners tonight, it'll give the administration an opportunity to revisit the proposed ordinance to see if all of the items that are in there currently are items that council may want to see continue to be in there when you revisit this ordinance on a month from now. It'll also afford an opportunity to have further discussions with some of those business owners to the extent that they've raised some questions, and perhaps we can give them some clarity as to what's happening and why. Because candidly, I did hear some misinformation out there this evening in the comments as to what people, I think, believe is happening or what the ultimate effect of this ordinance should be. So for those reasons, those should all be reasons that the township is otherwise going to take the ordinance and table consideration of it for that additional 30 days to give us the opportunity to address all of those items.
And before we vote on this is similar to what you're saying also, Mr. Pizer, but I think that anyone in the audience that would find it necessary to contact the mayor, either as a group or individually, his office is open 24/7. Please contact him immediately. You have a whole month to get your point across relative to, I'm sure, with Mr. Pizer being there on many occasions also, any specific points that you have to be made directly to the administration, make it known to them before the 27th of September, and that will help us out also in terms of moving in the direction that would be beneficial for everyone in Bensalem.
Okay, so we had a motion for a date certain of 9/27/22. I think, Mr. Kisselback, you made that motion?
And Debbie, we're sure on that date that that's a Tuesday. Our meeting is Tuesday that week? Okay.
Yep.
For the holiday.
Yeah, that's my car because of the holiday. Okay, so we have a first by Mrs. Champion, a second by Mr. Kisselback. All in favor of moving it to a date certain of 9/27, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, any against? Okay, so that's done. It'll be on the 27th. Okay?
So for members of the public, what council has done is has tabled the open hearing on this ordinance. It is going to be continued and picked up on September 27th during the regular council meeting that evening.
Okay. All right, so next on the agenda, number 5, is the consideration and public hearing of an ordinance amending Chapter 80. This has to do with dogs and other animals, to add Article 3 cats, Sections 18 through 22. And this basically is, in my opinion, a long time coming, actually, also. But this addresses the feral cat colonies that are a big problem for a lot of our residents. Okay, yeah, hold on a second. Okay, let me give a chance for people to get out so they're not. Okay. Excuse me. Okay, Mr. Pizzo, do you have anything about this ordinance you would like to say to start, or am I basically covering?
The ordinance was properly advertised in the Bucks County Courier Times. As it is not a zoning ordinance, it was not necessary for it to be reviewed by either the Planning Commission or the County Planning Commission. So the ordinance has been properly advertised. It's been proposed by individuals in the community who run an animal shelter and are very active in the care and treatment of feral cats, and they have forgotten more than I know about that, so I would defer presentation to Ms. Rogers.
Okay.
Sandy, oh, sorry, go
Yes,
ahead.
Sandy would like to make some points about the
Just
ordinance
a
prior to...
really quick
Okay, go ahead.
summary of what we're doing here. Sandy Rogers, 3274 Ophir Road, Trevos. So I appreciate you taking the time tonight. After 2.5 years in the making, I'm very excited to be here in regards to the feral stray cat ordinance that is under your consideration tonight. The Bridge Clinic has provided hundreds of Bensalem stray feral cats with TNR, which is called Trap, Neuter, Return. Services at no cost to Bensalem Township. We also provide medical care, dental care, again, at no cost to the township. Additionally, as these animals come in, we try to assess them for the possibility of adoption through the Rescue Perfect organization. As I'm sure council is very much aware, overpopulation of cats and kittens is an enormous problem in Bensalem, and the main source of the situation comes from apartment complexes and mobile home parks. These complexes allow the tenants to bring the animals without record of vaccination or spay, and these tenants then move out without taking their cat with them. Therefore, the number of cats increases 5 times each year. And that's why I provided you with that handout to show you just how quickly one cat can produce into thousands. The caring tenants and residents will then feed the discarded animals, only to find out that if they continue to provide for the animals, they risk being fined or will not be provided with renewal of lease or may even be evicted. As in the case at the crossings, and I have also included a letter from them stating that they would be evicted. We have spayed over 400 animals at the Grand alone, and this is just one of the many problem areas within Bensalem. The hardship and the burden always seems to fall on the residents of Bensalem, and I'd like to see how we can turn this burden from them and make the management of these facilities accountable for the neglect, the lack of policy, and the responsibility. And I want to thank you very much for your time.
Okay. All right, so I read through this earlier. Is there Any questions that council has in reference to the ordinance? Sandy?
Could you describe to me what this cactus tree is?
You will see that there is one animal on the top of that little tree. And that one animal in 1 year, and what happens each time it reproduces. And if you follow it all the way down through the years, after 5 years, you'll see just how many cats one cat can produce, let alone the hundreds that we have here in Bensalem that we try to trap, neuter, and again, return if we can.
And what about this chart, this discount summary, what does that mean?
That are the services, those are the services that the Bridge Clinic has provided. Is that this year or is that?
Just this year.
Just this year. I believe it's what, $67,000 we provided to Bensalem at this time. That's just for the animals here in Bensalem we provided.
So that's based in-kind work you've done for the township?
That is spay, neuter, medical, dental, surgical. It is not a matter of the trapping. The trapping we do as volunteers, but the rest are actual services provided by the vets and the vet staff that we pay for.
And this is for both cats and dogs, or just cats?
It's 99.9% cats.
I'm gonna invest in cats.
Feral cats.
Yeah, right.
Now, I had a question about the ordinance itself, and probably, so is the group that's put in charge of the colony, is the proper word, the feral colony, okay, to control get them vaccinated, get them fixed, get them fed by you, get them marked, get them taken care of. Is it always one organization, or can any organization
I mean, obviously,
register?
Rescue Perfect and the Bridge Clinic aren't the only organization out there. Are we one that is most involved? Yes. I mean, we had a huge undertaking when we involved ourselves with Court Creek Park, and there was over 500 animals there.
Okay.
They were removed from the park. Now, we didn't do it alone, obviously, but they were removed from the park. They were spay-neutered. They were housed and fed until we caught every cat in that park. Once that was completed, they were returned, and 200 were returned and 300 were placed. We continue to monitor that park. We continue to feed that park, and any new animals that show up are handled accordingly.
Okay, and it'll be handled by we have an animal control officer who will handle who's in charge, I guess, of the, what colonies. Okay, does anybody else have any questions?
I do. On section 80-21B, subsection B, we're saying that said person or organization must register a feral cat colony on or before January 1st. I'd like to amend that to read December 31st for each calendar year. In addition to that, I would also like to notate or add to this, upon discovery of a new colony, that it should be reported and registered within 30 days. And I would like to thank Sandy and Michelle for being here today and your input.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Okay, where was the date change again? 20?
Section, it's under feral cats and feral cat colonies, 80-21.
Okay, yeah, got it. Before December 31st or 30th?
Yeah, section B, subsection B. And add
Ms.
registration.
Benitez,
So-
just so that I'm clear, by changing from December 31, or from January 1 to December 31, I'm just trying
For
to...
renewal for the calendar year, I don't know, and
What
for
does
my
that do?
brain,
Does
it
that
makes
make
more
it-
sense, because it's the year,
No,
calendar year, and you have to register or renew your colony annually.
Right. And, I mean,
So it's within the-
ultimately, that's what you're looking for.
Right.
Yeah.
But
It's just-
you want, I trust that you want them to be registered in the beginning of the year for the calendar year. Is it?
Right, except for if there were to be a new colony
Sure.
discovered,
Sure.
then that's where I would like to add in, upon discovery, that the colony should be reported and registered within 30 days.
Okay. So we'll make it so that So the said has registered the existing feral cat colony on or before December 31 of each calendar year.
Right.
For the insert for the following year with the animal control officer.
Yes.
Thank you.
And then we can add a sentence that says, any colony registered in the middle, any colony registered.
Any new colony that's
Any new colony registered
discovered or
during a calendar year must be registered within 30 days of discovery of the same?
Sure.
Yeah.
That works. Thank you.
You guys think you got problems?
Okay, yeah, well, it's, I know people who live behind these things, and it's not, it is torture.
And I would just
really
like to
not
add
good.
for the future, if we could make an arrangement to talk with Sandy and Michelle. I know that they're doing some research for us, and they'd like to continue this conversation regarding potential mandates. And I'm not sure how we can help you, but I know Casey Tomlinson is also working with you guys. And, you know, the door is always open. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, all right, so we have a couple amendments to it. If there's no other questions, does anybody want to make a motion that we approve this ordinance
Motion to approve?
with the amendments?
Yes,
With the
with
amendments.
amendments as stated by Mr. Pizzo.
Okay, and is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any against? Okay, it's approved, and good luck. Okay. Okay, the next ordinance, a resolution, I'm sorry. Okay, number 6 on the agenda is consideration of a resolution opposing the sale of Bucks County Water and Sewer Authority's assets to Aqua of Pennsylvania. So the Bucks County Association of Township Officials has put together a resolution to help oppose the sale of Bucks County Water and Sewer to Aqua, which is a private company. Mr. Pizzo, is there anything else that needs to be said about this, or?
No. As council is aware, or I think council is aware, Bucks Water and Sewer has been a client of mine since 1991. So I'm probably not, I'm not going to comment for or against this ordinance, if that's okay.
Okay.
Or this resolution, if that's okay with all of you.
Yeah, that's no problem. Okay, so basically, the resolution is stating that Bensalem Township, who has 60%, I think, the mayor was saying we have 60% of the business for sewer. I think that Bucks County Water and Sewer has been functioning as a nonprofit since 1962, I believe, and I think they've done a pretty good job. So Bensalem Township is stating that we are, as a council, are making a resolution that we are against the sale to Aqua. We have a lot of concerns about it, and we're willing to join the Bucks County Association of Township Officials in fighting, the fight from preventing the sale occurring. Okay, so is there any questions or concerns from
Yeah, I
anyone?
just want to make sure that we know that we're joining this consortium, and it will be a minimum cost of $5,000, and it's to fight the sale of the, as you say, the authority to a private entity, a for-profit entity, as opposed to it now presently being a nonprofit thing. And according to these examples that they had given us, the rates had gone up quite substantively. For example, Lemon Township increased by 82%, East Bradford's increase was 64%. Cheltenham Township was 65% increase, as well as the Norton Township was a 57% increase, and consistent with that with other townships also.
Okay. And that's, look, Mr. Kisbos, that's part of our main concern about this occurring. Okay, so there's no other questions. Anybody want to put a motion that we approve this resolution?
I'll put a motion on the floor that we approve this as presented.
Okay. Okay, and then Ms. Champion second. All in favor? Aye. Any against? Okay, so that's done. Okay, number 7 through 10. We can do these all at once, Joe?
Yes.
Okay,
The next 4 resolutions, Mr. Knowles, all 4 of them are identical in form and content in that they are all resolutions that would authorize the condemnation of permanent right-of-way over 4 different parcels of land for the future construction of Renaissance Boulevard, a road that was alluded to earlier this evening during discussion in the R55 Riverfront Revitalization zoning ordinance. The resolution, as is included in the resolution, on each of the 4 resolutions, on December 22nd of 2015, the township enacted and adopted several ordinances associated with and in furtherance of the township's Riverfront Renaissance and redevelopment plans and initiatives, including, but not limited to, Township Ordinance 2015-10 and 2015-13. 2015-10 is the Bensalem 2018 Regulating Code Overlay District Ordinance, and 2015-13 created, established, and depicted the Bensalem Waterfront Official Map. And again, the map shows the road that is described in these 4 ordinances that we are now referring to as Renaissance Boulevard. These resolutions, if approved by council, would authorize the condemnation of the right-of-way for the construction of the road on the 4 properties that are identified herein: 2600 State Road, 2700 State Road, 400 Street Road, and 400 A Street Road.
Okay. Okay. You want to, we had promised you an opportunity to speak before this, but you kind of jumped the gun a little bit with the other thing, but that's okay.
We'll try not
So
to
do you wanna say
reiterate.
that it's the same thing, or you have something new?
I have a couple additional points that I
Okay,
would
go
like
ahead.
to raise. Good evening, Mike McGinnis from Begley Carlin here on behalf of Johnson Development. As I think all of council knows, Johnson Development is the equitable owner of 2600 State Road. The condemnation, which is in front of council for consideration this evening, would essentially condemn land to facilitate the construction of Renaissance Boulevard in the area depicted with the red line on the plan on the screen, which basically bisects my client's property and then runs through a number of properties that are owned by John Grassi. What I would state at the outset here is the township has been very clear from the beginning that Renaissance Boulevard is a paramount concern. That was highlighted and reiterated the very first time we came in to discuss this project with the township, which shocks me to say aloud, but was before COVID. That's how long we've been under agreement and discussing this project with the township. We have gone through a number of iterations in an attempt to accommodate the development of the road in some form or fashion. I think that's important to state because we are not here, and I don't want to speak for Mr. Grassi and his council, but with Johnson, we're not here to disagree with the why. We're here to disagree with the how. And what I mean by that is we want Renaissance Boulevard. We're not here arguing that Renaissance Boulevard is a bad idea. We think Renaissance Boulevard is a great idea. It's a great idea for our property. It's a great idea for the other industrial properties. It's a great idea for Waterside and its residents. What we do disagree with is when you look at this from a cost-benefit standpoint, and you take what we are proposing and what Mr. Grassi, I assume, is going to also propose, and you weigh that on a scale against the action that council is considering this evening, we just have a fundamental disagreement in the direction that that scale turns out to weigh. Tripp Bailey, my client, indicated earlier this evening that we are willing to commit $5 million for the construction of the road. We are also willing to provide the land to construct the road, and we are willing to work with Mr. Grassi as a condition of our approval. And I would state that the vast majority of my projects that come in front of council, I'm seeking preliminary final land development. We're not seeking preliminary final land development, we're only seeking preliminary development approval. And I think that's an important distinction because nothing that I stated precludes council from taking action at a later date to condemn the land if we can't come up with an acceptable solution that we believe is depicted on the screen in front of you. I know there has been concern that's been levied in the past, and Mr. Pizzo just reiterated the actions taken by council years ago to reserve the rights of the road on the official map. And while we actually disagree legally that the township has rights at this point to the road on the map, that's essentially irrelevant if the township's moving forward with the condemnation. The township is authorized to condemn land. I'm not here disputing that. What I am stating is this is not some theoretical exercise. The property owners who are primarily, almost exclusively impacted by this are in front of you this evening. And the township cannot say, well, we're not sure if there's going to be an agreement or if people are going to work with us or if the property owners would consent to the land and the road in a particular iteration. We're here. We're consenting. We're more than consenting. We are, I think, making a very good faith effort to show our investment in this community and in this project. There's been conversations from some other people in public comment about the nature of the properties on this corridor and particularly on this side of State Road. I can speak personally to this property. It is deed restricted. It's environmentally contaminated. I described it a long time ago now at the Planning Commission as a gypsum dumping ground. So the sorts of uses that we are not disagreeing with in terms of other development along the State Road corridor, they're not feasible, not on this property. This is the highest and best use for this property. And the condemnation would essentially moot our development, or at least the development that we have in front of you for your consideration this evening. And the result of this is going to, at a later date, after presumably this is litigated and my client and Mr. Grassi presumably in the aggregate see tens of millions of dollars for what they perceive to be the lost value with this road, is going to be some development plan here that is going to be materially worse than the one that is in front of you this evening. And that isn't a threat, that isn't conjecture. We put a lot of time into the aesthetics of this development so that it was cohesive with the sort of mixed-use development that the township wants, with the residential development that the township wants. And if you look at the picture that was shared earlier this evening, you see a lot of green space, you see a berm, you see a walking trail, things that were intentionally designed so that this would fit in. And if the road ends up in the area that's depicted in front of you, what that's going to do is shove any future development closer to State Road. And we might not be able to design the same berm or the same walking trail. And I don't think, and I mean this sincerely, we're going to have the same sort of development that is in front of you this evening. I know Tripp and his team have been involved for so long, not because they're trying to push a plan on the township that the township doesn't want, but because they believe in this site, they believe in this community, they believe in the potential here. We believe in Renaissance Boulevard. We just don't believe in the way that the township is going about facilitating the construction of it. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Andrew Stoll. I am, as I mentioned earlier, counsel for the property owner of the parcels identified in numbers 8, 9, and 10 on your agenda that are also the subject of what's in front of you. As you are aware, my client submitted a land development application last week, so it came as no surprise that the township is now seeking to potentially move forward with condemning our land. As has been the case with my client's property since 2001 when it submitted a sketch plan, my client has been willing to work together with the township to come up with some type of resolution, just as Mr. McGinnis had said, to make this work. If the township has vision, so do we. And all we were looking for was somehow, some way to make it work together. Now, before, in earlier items, I had mentioned, the timing of this seems all too peculiar. And as your solicitor probably had told you, there are things that are called pretextual takings in Pennsylvania. And under Pennsylvania law, you can't take or condemn land for anything other than a public purpose, and it cannot be used to stop a project. And that's exactly what's going on here. So if the council is willing to move forward with this and willing to condemn the land, our client has to assert his rights. And we all know what that means. And in terms of value, I can represent to you that my client had willing buyers upwards of $80 million. $80 million. So if the council is ready, willing, and able to move forward with a condemnation for that amount of money for that property alone, put aside everything else that's going to be a part of this Renaissance Boulevard on the official map. If the township's ready, willing, and able to commit to that, and not even ready, willing, and able to sit down with us and to discuss alternatives with us, and instead have it just be found on an agenda, our hands are tied and the township moves forward. But you do have an opportunity here to, like the prior ordinance that was before you relating to the uses in the R55 district, table this. Sit down with Johnson Development, myself and my client, and see if we can work out something together. It doesn't have to move forward like this. This isn't the typical process, as your solicitor will tell you, with how condemnations are done. So again, I'd ask that you reconsider this just like you reconsidered the other ordinance and make the right decision. Thank you.
Tripp Bailey with Johnson Development. I think Mike really hit on all the high points that I wanted to discuss related to our site and what we're proposing. I hope that council's decision tonight to not vote on the zoning ordinance can open the door to a compromise and a solution where the private property owners are working with the township to create some real change in this area. And I think John and I have that solution for you. Again, we're willing to contribute up to $5 million for the future construction of this road, and we're willing to donate land to the township for the road as long as it is in a location that can accommodate our proposed use. We're able to make those concessions because of the size of the development we're proposing, which is a 250,000 square foot warehouse distribution center. If the council decides that they need to locate the road right through the middle of our proposed development, our only course of action is going to be to pursue damages caused by that decision. And we believe on our property, it's in excess of $20 million. And obviously, if that's the course the council takes tonight, we will not be able to contribute any money towards the construction of that road. So I think that the solution that we're proposing is a much more feasible way to actually see this road come to reality in the near future, rather than fighting with all the property owners over the damages that a condemnation would cause. So, thank you for your consideration, and I hope you decide to put off the decision on this and work with the property owners to come up with a real solution that could be a win-win for everybody. Thank you.
If I could offer just one more thing. We had tabled with a room full of property owners. We all know that this road system is going to affect all the property owners that were in this room. I think that it's appropriate for this council to table this action for both of these properties, all 4 of these agenda items, until at least September 2017, so that we can have a full discussion of understanding of what's going on in the R55 district, and those property owners can see also what's coming their way. That's the right message to send to these folks. It's not if we don't do it, we'll just take it, because that's what's on the table right now. So I'd ask that you do what you did earlier and table this item until the 27th.
My apologies for getting up again, but I just wanted to point out on this map, this road is approximately a mile long when you follow the path. And when you get to this point here with Johnson Development, it ceases to be the properties in which you are looking to condemn. In order for it to continue, we, as property owners to the south, have slightly rerouted it to the east because for a couple of reasons. One, it doesn't impact any existing tenants on our property materially. So we would be able to additionally donate this section here. And we also moved it farther to the east to hug the property lines of the 2 properties that we can't do anything about. This one's owned by T-Force, they lease to UPS. And this one to the east, I'm not sure who owns that. But that's why we moved it to the east, because we feel that that would be most advantageous to get the road to its intended best location, which is Imperial Court. So that, out of the mile-long road, we're able to get you everywhere except the last few hundred feet. And all of this ground in green from this point here all the way to Street Road, we're willing to give to the township, which is approximately 5 acres of ground. So thank you.
Tony Belfield, 2475 Greenland Court. A couple quick comments that haven't been brought up yet. I won't belabor the points, but when you look at the new alignment of the road in green, everything between that and 95 at the upper part, for the most part, on the JGD property, which is immediately behind the Johnson property, are wetlands. By putting the road where it is, you're separating the 2 features, the wetlands to the north, the developable high and dry land to the south, as far as this figure is concerned. One of the things you may want to consider, since comments have been made that the property owners are willing to donate that land, is a stormwater management issue. You're going to be putting in a road. There's going to have to be appropriate stormwater management. They own the land where you're going to have to put the stormwater management for the road. It's the way they have it designed with the road, you're pretty much maxing out the rest of the development, so it would be lesser value on the remainders to the north, and you have an opportunity there to work with the private landowners, create the necessary stormwater management, and overdo it. This whole area is subject to flooding. We've all gone through it. If you can maximize the stormwater management features on these remnant lands that have no development value completely to the landowners, but would have great opportunity here, you can double the bang for your buck. You get your road, you get your stormwater management, you do it cooperatively together so it gets done in a public-private partnership type process. And with the alignment that they have as well, in my mind, one of the biggest issues we always have is traffic and speed. With the alignment that's there, it's a nice soft, gentle curve. I can see those tractor trailers in their haste. They got to get there on time. zipping down to 95 and getting out. With these curves and alignments, they're almost forced traffic control. Now, I'm not the traffic planner, but it kind of makes sense. You have a bend here, the trucks are going to be slowing down for the bends. You're going to have a much more calm flow of traffic as opposed to a superhighway with tractor trailers zipping past each other on a 2-lane road. So that alignment almost, I think, gives you that positive benefit out. You have the benefit of acquiring land at no cost to the township, significant cash contributions to the cost of the road, ability to address an overall problem the township has down there with stormwater management on a very grand scale, and do it all together in cooperation. The only other thing I'll mention is the remainder of the land that you're talking about, further down, that Mr. Grassi just spoke to, again, has the potential for some very large and substantial stormwater management features on the property already from historic uses of the property. If you were able to work with them and maximize those features, you could get the bang for your buck for stormwater management there. So it just, again, it seems like it's a win-win-win for everybody if take a step back, do a plan, work together, and make it work for everybody. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is John Parsons, Parsons. I am one of the principals at 775 American Drive, which is directly, I believe, right across the street from the old Ribas sheetrock dump site. We have had the opportunity to in another business that we own up by Birch Avenue, we've had the opportunity to be down here in Bensalem for close to 17, 18 years. That area down along State Road is a flood zone. It's, and I've had conversations with the mayor and other council members that, you know, during the very last, storm we had, I had just gotten back from Texas. I was on my way home, and we had to go back and rescue employees that were stranded in State Road and stranded up on Birch Avenue, believe it or not. Through my business dealings with Tripp and the Johnson Corporation, I will assure you of this. Looked at, Walter's property there for years. I'm kind of the kind of guy that lets, live and let live type of individual, but I can assure this, that if you were to grant Johnson Properties the opportunity to do this, you can't get but a better first-class operation. I know that from my business dealings. I'll disclose the fact that I build schools, I build warehouses, we build developments and other things. But I can assure you that that company, and I don't have no job with Johnson or anything along those lines, but I'll tell you this, they're people of their word. They're a first-class outfit in the development side. I would love to have them as my neighbor until, till the riverfront comes down there from whatever, as I had that conversation with you, Joe, on one end of the property. I love the riverfront. I love the fact that, for the housing and stuff along those lines. But I also had that same conversation with you that it can be a coexistence. I do know that these guys will do what they say they'll do. They'll be great neighbors. They'll be great partners. They will come in and they will not, be people to take from Bensalem. If anything, they'll contribute to Bensalem. I've seen that with their own business dealings in Philadelphia, through different people that have worked for them and have told me about them. I've had the opportunity to know the company, and I just think that they would be a major asset in the event that you had that opportunity. For us as a business to look at the out there, and other than some of the road improvements and things like that that can be could make sense. You know, from the neighbor that's probably right next door, as close to them as possible, we would welcome them. And we're thrilled to death to know that that road's going in there. We supported that one the first time it came through. We think that's a beautiful end. I think that it helps people coexist, you know, the people from the water side, and hopefully, as the mayor has told me over time, he wants to see that development go through. He can tell you the story years ago. I was involved in ADOCAM, and I was one of the owners of that property. And he told me, don't try to do anything with it. I'm going to put a residential use there. I backed off, sold my interest to Kevin Flynn, and the rest is history. 17 years later, you know, it's there, but it's taken that long. The other thing I wanted to bring up too is, in this institution tonight, I heard a lot about everything, and I was sitting there and I was thinking about it as my accountant's doing my financials. You know, what does that do to businesses and people that maybe ain't as fortunate as me? How do you affect their financial statements? How do you affect their banking? You know, their banking. That could be the one asset that a lot of small businesses have in, you know, that's in their pocket. It's no different than when you owned a farm. You know what I mean? Like, somebody's just gonna come in and say, you're not allowed to farm here no more. I sit on a farm. You know what I'm talking about. It's tough. And I look at it from a banking standpoint, and I look at it from a financial standpoint. And the other thing is, what happens to your employees? Where do they go? So, you know, I'm torn, because I want to see that waterfront, and I really do believe, Mr. Mayor and council members, that this is going to evolve. I do believe that, you know, the idea and everything, you did a great job in getting it across. You really did. You over your lifetime, you've done a great job to make that happen. And I don't think anybody up in this room doesn't see it. And I think it's just, it'll progressively take its place. As a developer, I speak to you very openly. I think it takes its place. I think you have to have different mixed uses. I think you're going to have to do different things, which we've had those conversations, and I don't want to get into that tonight. But I think you are heading in the right direction, but I also think we can all coexist. And I think that at the end of the day, you know, with that road, taking it off the traffic of State Road, it's a major plus. So I applaud you for that. And I know that the township itself, along with council members and everybody like that, took that into account when they did this. But what I can speak about is I can speak about hopefully our new neighbor that I would definitely welcome. And being right across the street, I would welcome them, you know, into the Bensalem residency. They will be a great partner. They will be a real neighbor of Bensalem. There's no question about that. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, we'll close public comment. Okay, does any council people have any questions in reference to the resolutions 7, 8, 9, and 10? Condemnation of the right-of-way over the identified tax parcels.
The only thing I'll say, I'll make a comment. This is from my personal observation. I just can't believe that's the best design that you could come up with, taking the road from the Johnson property to the other end. I don't understand why you couldn't do better. It just doesn't make sense to me. I know you don't want us to go through the center of the property, but that was the established route that we had made available to you when you came to Bensalem, and you knew that at that juncture in the very beginning. And to come up with that, I'm going to say a squiggly type of design of a road, just doesn't make sense. I don't know why you couldn't do better. I could give you suggestions, but that's not what I'm here to do tonight.
Well, I mean, let me respond to that. And again, I think that, look,
I think you need to hit the thing because it's gotten dark.
I mean, we've said from the beginning we're willing to work with township to come up with a solution that will work for both parties. This design maximizes the developable area on our property, and it maximizes the developable area on John's property. That enables us, for myself, to contribute $5 million towards the construction of the road.
Okay.
The further the road shifts into our project, the less ability I have to contribute funds to the road. So we decided to take the approach of, let's move it to the edges of the developable area and offer the maximum amount of funds possible to the township to make it a reality. And I understand your concern that on a aerial showing a area that's a square mile, that it seems to have a lot of curves, but this is a huge area, and those are very wide curves. Once it's built, as our traffic engineer testified, it will function its intended purpose, which is to get the truck traffic off of State Road and use the road to access Street Road. It's not going to be some windy, curving road once it's built. It's going to be a long road that does its intended purpose, which is to get the trucks off State Road. And I think that's the most important thing, not how it looks on an aerial, but how do we actually get the road to come to fruition. So.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I have a question. I apologize.
A question for him?
Or a question for the traffic engineer.
Yeah.
Mr. Roth, as Tripp had just said, that it will not be as windy. I would like to know, in essence, are there a lot of truck-related roads that are in this shape and form? I'm not a truck driver. I see videos of crazy truck driving accidents. I worry about these curves, and and I understand from an aerial perspective that they are harder than they actually be in real life. But that looks like a big snake to me, that just kind of a worm on my driveway that you don't know where that's going to go. And I have a concern for that, for our EMS having to go out there and deal with that. I appreciate all the comments from Mr. Belfield about stormwater management, but to his point, he is not a traffic engineer, person, and I like traffic. I don't like traffic, I like understanding traffic. So that is why I'm asking that question.
Sure, and that's a fair question, and I think what we have to do is, I guess, whittle it down. I mean, obviously the road is configured the way it is to maximize the development space. I think Mr. Belfield made some very good points in allowing for stormwater management and so forth. And you are looking at this from a very high level, okay? So I think once you start refining the design, I think a lot of those curves, which appear to be what we call 90-degree angles, 90-degree curves, okay, would, look to be smoother. We would look to reduce, those curves to make it more of a meandering type roadway than a, sharp curves. And in doing so, and in refining the design, I think we can accomplish what you're asking, and that is, will the roadway be able to accommodate the trucks? Yes.
I have one question, and one question for Mr. Worsta. If you're saying that, why was it not necessarily presented to be more attractive to us? And Mr. Worsta, do you have any comments or concerns about the presentation?
Yes.
On the quickness of seeing this.
Yeah,
You have to do further.
I clearly think that there's absolutely no question that the best alignment is the official map alignment. The way the applicant has presented it, it's a makeshift road to fit it in, just to increase developable area without regard to the movement of traffic. Could it work? Yeah, it's a bicycle could ride it, and a car can ride it, but it's not what you'd want to design. There's no question in my mind that's not something that we would ever put forward as far as design, and especially to be a township road.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay,
My name's Donnie Zabinski, Zabinski.
Okay.
I'm John's partner, so I own 140 acres with John up here. But the
okay,
reason why I'm speaking.
okay, we're done public comment, but that's okay. I'll let
Well,
you
no, I'm
go
answering the
again.
question.
Okay, go
So
ahead.
because, and I want to give a little background so that you understand where I'm
okay, go
coming
ahead.
from. I'm in the truck business,
Okay.
okay? So while this was put together, this was put together with a previous developer that John and I had an agreement with. And as we were going through this and that development fell apart, and as we started to work with Johnson, this was that development's project. Now, John and I are doing this on our own. So as we come into this, we're coming into what they had started is maximizing the use. John and I are willing to sit down and come with different solutions. The one thing I will tell you, though, as an expert in trucks and travel, because I have many of them, you do not want a straight road for trucks. It is the most dangerous thing you can do is have a straight road on a truck because they will go fast. You want a road that causes them to slow down, however it's designed.
And I don't disagree with you, that just looks like it's.
Well, and that could certainly get some work, and we're certainly willing to work with you. But what we're asking for is the opportunity to do such.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is there any other comments from, or questions from council?
Just to answer your question of why we're proposing the routing that we proposed, I believe that it's a better solution to have a road that has some curves in it that doesn't cost the township any money for the land, and we contribute $5 million towards, versus the road that is in a straighter alignment and the township not having funds to build it and having to compensate the property owners for the land. I weigh all of that, and I believe that our proposal outweighs the taking. So that's the reason we proposed the way we did. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other questions from council?
On page 2, I just want to make sure that we had a correction of a typographical error for,
Page 2 of what?
yes, we do?
which one?
Okay. I was able to speak with Mr. Pizzo about that, and it's resolved. Thank you.
Okay. So we have 7, 8, 9, and 10. Joe, can we vote on these all at once?
You can, Mr. Knowles, and if I could, just, council, the administration has had plans and been prepared to move forward with these condemnation resolutions since the end of last year, beginning of this year. And to the extent that I hear people asking for the opportunity to just see if we can work something out, well, these things have stayed in a drawer while the township has given the opportunity to the two property owners involved to work things out. The Johnson land development application, which is the next item on the agenda, if we ever get to it, item 12, has, as council is aware, has been tabled numerous times, almost month by month, as the township was continuing to afford the two landowners involved to work with us to see if an alternate design for the road could be reached. What's on the screen above is the last best proposal that this township has received, and that was several months ago, because it is designed to optimize the development of those two properties. I would point out on the graphic that's above everybody's head that Renaissance Boulevard is but one road on that map in what are a series of roads that were approved by this council in 2015 at the time of the adoption of the official waterfront map. The design is certainly to help take truck traffic off of State Road, there is no question, but it is also part of an overall design of roads that were designed to help spur commercial, non-residential development on the west side of State Road, similar to the Broken Goblet that we talked about earlier, which is located within one of those blocks, to spur that kind of restaurant and shop and nightlife kinds of uses that would supplement residential development on the east side of State Road. So the design is not simply to take trucks off, but again, it's an important feature. But it's also part of what you can see is a series of roads designed to make for smaller parcels that would lead to the development of that area within, consistent with what we've talked about now for several hours this evening, the vision for the riverfront. So we're here, and the item is on the agenda tonight because, again, we have an item immediately following this, Johnson Development, the council also needs to deal with. And as Mr. McGinnis said earlier during his presentation, there is some disagreement between Johnson Development and the township as to what the township's rights are vis-a-vis that road and the adoption of the official map. But there is no question what the township's rights are should you move to condemn the road as laid out on the township map. And so that is why the resolutions have been brought forward to the council this evening.
And the road is public use.
Oh, absolutely, public use. So I just want to make sure that the record reflects all of that. I don't know that we need any further comment. I see, again, someone approaching the podium, but I just wanted to make it clear that is, it's been alluded to that the township is just willy-nilly proceeding. We've given JJGD Development, we've given Johnson, we've given Crow, we've met with them all, you've met with them all several times during the pendency of all of this. And again, this is the best and final.
Johnson's has met with a couple times.
We haven't met with Crow. I never.
Well, I
even-
didn't.
When did we meet with Crow?
I didn't say we met with Crow. We met with Johnson's several times. But go ahead.
This is what we've been told is the best and final that comes to offer.
You just said we met with Crow. When did we meet with Mr. Grassi?
I'm sorry, I misspoke. Council
So
did
it wasn't
not.
council. I was
But
just
the
checking
mayor
because
did.
I think I missed that meeting.
Okay, we're closing public comment, but you keep coming up over and over again. So do you have
Just to
something on
set the
that?
record, just to set the record.
Because your attorney's standing behind you, so now he's going to.
Set the record straight. May I speak,
Yeah, okay.
Mr. President?
Go ahead.
Set the record straight. I spoke to Crow 3 weeks ago, tried to make a better plan to move it back off State Road, make it look better, all this and that. And they were supposed to get back to me. They never got back to me, just to set the record straight.
Okay. Mr. McGinnis, you have something to add before?
It was just going to be 30 seconds.
Okay, go ahead.
I promise. The last thing that we would do is describe this as willy-nilly, as I stated with the number of years we've been involved in this. That's not the accusation regarding the takings. Our only comment was the primary directive from our perception was to make sure that the road, in the area I'm going to say that's not shaded white, basically hued as close to the prior iteration of Renaissance Boulevard as possible, which we are doing here. John indicated with the area that's to the south, how there's a minor shift, but it's really to the benefit of those parcels. The reconfiguration of the road substantively is only over these two pieces. It would have no negative detrimental effect to mixed use or other uses to the south or to the north. The only jog in the road is over the two pieces of land that are discussed. I do think that is an important distinction to make.
And no disrespect, Mr. McGinnis, but I believe Mr. Grassi testified and the map shows that the Grassi property to the south of Johnson has the road in a different location than is shown on the official map.
That is correct, but
okay, thank you.
Minorly.
Okay, so We'll reclose public comment. Okay, so any other questions from council? Joe, my question was that we get to, can we vote on these all at once?
Yes, you can.
Okay,
Items 7, 8, 9, and 10, which are the 4 condemnation resolutions, have all been dealt with this evening as part of a single presentation. We've received comment from the public on all 4 during one public comment session, as well as during the earlier conversations on R55 for that matter. So yes, council can vote if council is of a mind to take the same action on all 4. You can do all 4 at once.
Okay. All right. Hearing no other questions from council, is there anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion, Mr. President, that agenda item number 7, 8, 9, and 10, and the consideration of a resolution authorizing the condemnation of a permanent right-of-way. And these are for the tax map parcels of 02065-021, 02066-005, as well as 02066-005-001, as well as the last one, number 10, 02066-005-002. The combination be approved by the council this evening.
Okay, is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any against?
Yes, me.
Okay, 4-1, the condemnation passes for 4 properties. Okay, next on the agenda is, actually prior to any other consideration, number 11 on the agenda is consideration of reduction of permit fees for St. Charles Borromeo event, date of April 28th, located 2913 Street Road, Bensalem, Pennsylvania. Do you have this, Mr. Pizzo?
Certainly. As council will receive from time to time, the township has received an application for a reduction of fees. In this case, the application comes from St. Barnabas Church in connection with Latin Festival 2022, which is supposed to take place on August 28th at the Our Lady of Fatima site of the St. Charles Church, 2913 Street Road. They are requesting a waiver of the $100 mobile food vendor event permit fee, and requesting a waiver of the obligation to provide the township with a bond for the event. The application is consistent with those that the township routinely receives for these types of events from this type of an applicant, and is acceptable for your consideration this evening.
Now, Joe, is there a separate $100 fee for the fire, or is that included in the mobile event?
I'm sorry, yes, there's also a $300 fee as well, that they're looking in both cases to have the $300 fee reduced to $150, to have the $100 fee reduced to $50, and again, that is consistent with prior township practice, and a waiver of the bond.
Okay, so it's a 50% reduction for the fire and the mobile food vendor event and the waiver of the bond. Okay?
Motion to approve reduction of permit fees for St. Charles Borromeo event date, August 28, 2022, located at 2913 Street Road.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any against? Okay, that's done. Okay, next on the agenda is the Johnson Development Association, consideration of primary land development.
Preliminary.
Preliminary.
Good evening. In light of the condemnation, which essentially at this point in time moots the development, it would be prudent on our part to request a tabling with an additional MPC extension granting through the September 27th council meeting, if that was the council's pleasure.
Okay, and then,
I'll put that in the form of motion.
is that okay? Hold on 1 second. Is that okay, Mr. Pizzo, to accept in that form?
Yes, I'll ask Mr. McGinnis to obviously follow that up in writing, which I know he will tomorrow.
Okay.
Yes. We're waiving the MPC through the month of September.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Kitzbach, I'm sorry.
I'll second it.
Well, let him finish his motion.
I'll say the same thing,
Okay. Is there a second?
but now I'm on the
Yes,
microphone.
there's a second.
Okay. All in favor of granting the extension to Johnson's Development Associates to the 27th of September, say aye. Aye. Any against? Okay,
Thank you.
we'll see you the 27th. Okay. Okay, next on the agenda is public comment. Is there any public comment that hasn't been commented?
Hold on, wait. We might need to change that. We might have to have two motions.
To what? Okay, public comment. Sir, go ahead.
I just wanted to thank council for passing the resolution.
Okay, can you say your name, please?
Oh, sorry. My name's William Markham. I live at 3621 Valley Meadows Drive.
Okay.
I just wanted to thank council for passing the resolution opposing the sale of the Bucks County Water and Sewer Authority sewer system to Aqua. Thanks.
Okay, appreciate that. Okay, thank you. Okay, does anybody else want to come up for public comment? Seeing no one come forward, we'll close public comment. Other business, Mr. Mayor, do you have anything else?
Another great concert, that's all I can tell you on the positive side. Foreigners coming up, is there anything I can say, any holiday coming on?
I don't know. Labor Day.
Oh, we're not going to have a meeting for Labor Day.
Yeah, Labor Day.
Well, all of you have a great Labor Day weekend, and to all those folks out there, that labor for us every day, and especially don't forget our people that work here at the township.
Okay.
And thank you for allowing me to attend this meeting tonight. I really want to thank you, and
Okay.
Gotta push your way in.
Mr. Pizzo, do you have any further comment?
I'll just echo the mayor's sentiments, wishing everyone happy Labor Day.
Deb, you don't have anything, do you?
I got a dermatologist.
Okay, Ms. Benitez, do you have anything you would need to add?
Happy retirement to Alex at Bella Maria. I know that we have another Bensalem family who has multiple small businesses taking over and bringing Charlie's to Bensalem. So that's, bittersweet, I guess, in a way. They've been a wonderful business, and I just want to wish him the best in his retirement. Thank you again to Christine King. It was, just unbelievable what she did. She really is a hometown hero. And thank you, Mayor, for bringing her in to award and recognize her tonight. The Grange Fair, if you didn't go to it, put it on your calendar for next year. I know Mrs. Champion and I got to take a look at that. It's a Bucks County fair, and it's a great event. And then finally, school starting, so be on the lookout for the buses. You're on camera. Some of you already started, some are starting next week. You are on camera. Thank you, Bensalem Police Department and Bensalem School District, for coordinating those efforts. And everybody stay safe. Kids, enjoy your school year. I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Champion, do you have anything?
Happy Labor Day. Enjoy wherever you're going. Drive safely. Thank you to all for all these years who have labored, for all our union workers, for part of the reason why it was started. And being the daughter of a union iron worker, I appreciate everything that everybody has done to build this great country of ours. And thank you to, especially to Mrs. King, for what she had done to save that young child, that baby. As a mom, it really tugs at my heart. May that gentleman get the help he needs, or, justice for the baby. So thankfully, he's okay. Drive safely out there. As Mrs. Benita said, school is in session. It's good to hear that somebody already got caught. My daughter starts tomorrow, her high school career, and I'm very excited. We just got back from vacation, so.
Okay, Mr. Polari, do you have any comments? Okay. Mr. Kisselback, do you have any comments?
Just a quick comment that I would like to thank Christine King. As she made her presentation, I believe that she is a God-fearing woman. I believe the Lord had given her the strength to do what she did, and I think she would agree with that. And she's certainly an example to all of us, to an extreme as far as what she did, sacrificing herself for her brother. So God bless her and her family and everything she does in the future.
Amen.
Amen. Happy Labor Day. That's it, Judge.
Okay. And that's it for us tonight. Happy Labor Day. Enjoy your holiday. Enjoy the end of the summer. Be safe. Our next meeting is scheduled for September the 9th, I believe. I'm sorry, September the 12th. September the 12th will be our next scheduled meeting, and then, of course, our second meeting in September 27th. Okay? Is there a motion to adjourn? Adjourn.